Elf I am the protagonist template, Invincible chapter 521 to 540. 521. Leo Lu's Double Swords, by Z's Technique Inheritance. Please complete. The first to be eliminated by array diagram was naturally Serena. Although she is a qualified trainer, she does not lack self-training, but after all, not everyone is a fighting trainer who advocates growing and fighting with elves. Elves can fight. You can also put your fist on it. Therefore, even though the array map was tested based on the individual's energy level to judge and condense the energy fake, Serena barely survived the second round, was defeated, and was removed from the array map. Moved out. It's a pity. Outside the array map, Serena felt her full energy and sighed lightly. But soon, she focused her attention on Z, who was tossing around with the energy fake of the giant needle bee in the array map. Eyes are getting brighter. Okay, that's awesome. Corner of the map. Now. Z's legs swayed like catkins in the wind, hooked and poked, his long legs shot out like guns, and pierced the neck of a large needle bee's energy fake in front of him. Immediately, the black air dissipated. A white light group flew out from the 420 array on the ground and submerged into Z's body. You have absorbed some of the pure vitality, and you have gained a little. Your physique has been slightly strengthened, and the HP value is plus 0.7. The seventh one. Z thought silently in his heart, and after nodding to the lovely wide open and beautiful Serena outside the array map, he turned his eyes to the other three positions. In the center, the wind speed dog that has turned into a blazing sun mode, has sharp teeth like a sickle, and bites the waist of the large needle bee's energy fake in front of him. Then, he turned his head and threw it heavily on the ground. Immediately. Boom, underscore. The scorching flames surged out like a tidal wave, overturning the energy fake of the giant stinger in an instant. Number of fakes broken, 10. Diagonal southeast. Sizzling beer tilde. Choke, underscore. The big needle bee's arms are like guns, and at an angle of 1 second to the millimeter, the opposite, energy fake, double needles that are like a replica of their own form were removed. The body sank, the needle arms overlapped left and right, turned sideways, and slammed into the opponent's arms. Next second. Beep. A huge blue-green energy lance burst out from behind the energy dummy. Under the impact of strong energy, it was instantly smashed into shreds. The number of fake avatars broken, 11. West side, edge. Whoosh underscore. Energy dummy, of the giant needle bee galloping down in midair, the petite Leoru's eyes were calm, and his arms slammed forward. Immediately. Centered on the white circles on the backs of Leolu's pair of front claws, two semi-arc waveguide-like blades spread and formed instantly, hitting the double needles struck by the big needle bee's energy fake. Boom. The sound of gold and iron symphony is resonant. After a brief stalemate. Olu tilde. Leolu abruptly withdrew his strength and gave in, and at the same time kicked up to the sky, hitting the bottom of the energy fake of the great needle peak heavily. Then, step on the ground and bend your knees slightly. Sip underscore. Like a cannonball, the petite figure caught up with the large needle bee's energy fake that flew out backwards. Stab it. It crossed and flashed in midair, and after drawing an X, it went straight through. Step underscore. Bending his knees to the ground, the blade of light dissipated, and Leolu slowly got up. Next second. Energy fake, that froze behind it suddenly exploded and scattered into smoke. The number of fakes broken, 7. Speaking of which, Leoru is the only one among the elves who has a strong interest in fighting techniques, CFED. It can even be said that it is the successor of Z's skills. As for other elves, most of them are just learning some power-generating skills in Z's techniques. Even Marshadow, who has a clear interest in kicking skills. It is just a hobby of kicking, and there is no plan to dig deeper and create tactics based on this. Only Riolu. This little guy seems to have all the qualities that Baizi is similar to and hopes for. Previously in the Kwangwon City arena in Galar, he witnessed Kato's tactics created by the perfect combination of human skills and elf moves, which made him feel a sense of brilliance. Sleep. Actually, it's not that he didn't have such an idea. After he obtained the master level, kicking skill, he also deliberately taught his elves about it. The effect can be said to be remarkable. So-called, 1 law is clear and 100 law is clear. The master level, kicking skills, can be said to have reached the peak of a certain skill. Others, such as swords, spears, palms, and fists, although he did not deliberately learn them, are enough to enter the house. At least, it is enough to teach a group of elves. All kinds of power-generating skills have indeed benefited a lot of hands in his hands in close combat. But the same. Baizi also discovered that these elves have paths that are more suitable for them, and fighting techniques can only be used as icing on the cake. It's over. Even Machado, who Baizi thought would be a good fit. In fact, it is also a path similar to the Ghost Assassin. The exclusive, 7 stars Soul Reaper leg, is just a bee sting that it will kill. But, after all of this, Baizi's idea of cultivating with techniques as the core was finally realized after possessing Liolu. The little guy is not only suitable, but also full of interest in this performance. After a short adaptation period. After only a few days of Baizi's teaching, he has already achieved preliminary results. S. Energy fake, that had become more threatening before condensed out again. Baizi restrained his thoughts. The spiritual power that seemed to be in essence suddenly turned into a storm and swept towards the opponent. In fact, after using the brilliant king sword to slash a few energy fakes, the White Z found that this array map seemed to have a very rigid sense of energy level. The opponent can only be re-engraved according to the thought power in his body. As for the power of the brilliant king sword, it is completely ignored by him. That's why energy fake of these giant hornbees is a proof of what he has learned. The target is used. 522. Power tempering, the power of great destruction, the palace of insects. The feeling of brushing the copy is really cool, especially for Baizi. He can do it with ease, and he can use these constantly stronger targets to confirm what he has learned. Anyway, Baizi is very cool. However, this array map obviously will not let Baizi and the others go down like this. Fengsugo, Li Luo, and Baizi himself have all been beaten by the 15th Big Needle Bees, energy fake, and they have been attacked one after another. Yes, the forced transmission is out of the range of the array. Only one giant stinger was left. Tisk tilde. Baizi pouted, but he knew that this was normal, and all the signs showed that the protagonist of the test of the underground ruins here is the big needlebee. It's just a dip. Moreover, in this wave, the gains of him, Fengsugo and Lielu are not shallow. The HP race value of Fengsugo and Lielu has both increased by 12 points, and his own physique has also increased to 42 degrees. However, compared to their single HP incremental increase, big stingrays are much more abundant. The 6-dimensional race value, in addition to the special attack, the 5 items of HP, attack, defense, special defense, and speed have been randomly increased to varying degrees. And every time it will bring the same amount of insect laws and the bonus of the embryonic authority. The giant stinger is constantly strengthening at a speed that is visible to the naked eye. Time goes by. Finally, after the giant stinger did not know how many energy fakes were defeated. Pop 1. The entire array map seemed to have completed its mission, shattered with a bang, and turned into countless light spots rushing towards the whole body of the giant needlebee. At the same time, orb of destruction that was suspended on the altar suddenly flew, and went straight into the body of the giant stinger. And just when Baizi thought that this time was no different from the previous fusion of the Insect King Orb. Beer. Coax, _ Accompanied by the painful whimper of the giant bee, a layer of twisted black-red fireworks suddenly rose up on the surface of the bee, completely wrapping the bee inside it. Quote exclamation mark. Baizi's expression tightened, but the state of transformation that was detected immediately afterward forced him to stop. This flame is. Selena clenched Baizi's palm tightly and asked worriedly, Brother Baizi, is it really okay for the giant stinger bee to be wrapped in flames like this? No problem, the giant stinger is ushering in another transformation. Baizi's expression returned to calm, and in the mental sense, although the large needle bee was still whining unconsciously at this moment, the mental fluctuations emitted became stronger and stronger. It was like a group of fires that had been doused with gasoline were burning up in layers. Soon, the black-red flame gradually fades away. In other words, it was completely absorbed by the giant stinger and became a part of it. After everything fades away, the shape of the giant needle bee that has completed the transformation does not seem to have any obvious changes, and even the momentum has not been raised in any way. The still water is deep, and the breath is more restrained. A lifeless statue. But at the same time, just looking at it, a faint sense of horror rose from the bottom of my heart involuntarily. Just like standing on the 10,000 jong dangerous peak that can only accommodate 1 foot. Such a state. Baizi raised his eyebrows slightly in surprise, because the giant needle bee in this state has already given him a demeanor of the future giant needle bee that he saw in the Battle of Lampielchi. Baizi, who was curious about the state of the giant needle bee, was slightly attentive, and an unseen brilliance flashed in his eyes. And the next second, the big needle bee's data panel that made Baizi somewhat unexpected suddenly appeared in his eyes. Race, big needle bee, metallic flash primitive form, permanent mega transformation. Attribute, insect poison. Characteristics, adaptability, mind-eye exclusive characteristics, predicting the opponent's actions, and the ability to avoid danger to break the situation. Level, Quasi-God Elementary, Level 81, 75 100ths. Potential, Level 1 God, Extreme. HP, 165 Attack, 200 150 Defense, 140 Special Attack, 15 Special Defense, 180 Speed, 200 145. Exclusive skills. Gauntlets can greatly enhance the defense and attack of double needles. Extinction needles, dedicated all-out killing blow, can cause 2/3 5 times the damage, and there is a certain amount of damage rate to cause a one-hit kill effect. Ask for flowers. Skills. Double needle, peck, anger, random attack, chase attack, gas gathering, poison attack, poisonous diamond, highly poisonous, high-speed movement, missile needle, stalker, malicious pursuit, sword dance, reckless, life needle. Genetic skill, rapid return. Status, perfect. Insect King Orb, and Destruction Orb, left over from the first generation of Insect Kings, and with the help of the first generation of Insect Kings the legacy of the power has completed the tempering of power that is unique for the ages, and has the same level of power as the creation level, but it is beyond the fundamental power of 18 kinds of attribute energy, a great destructive power. Close black lens bracket. Point 0. Baizi was speechless for a long time. From the point of view of any one of the level, potential and race value of the giant needlebee, the giant needlebee is enough to be said to be reborn again. Even the potential and racial values can already be compared to the big needlebees of the Future Time Limit Combat Power card, Time Limit. All of these are huge improvements. But at the moment, Baizi's focus is not on this at all. Power tempering. Baizi's eyes wandered back and forth on the 4 words in the introduction column. Obviously, whether it was the gradually formed power prototype and the disappearance of the power of the worm-type law, it is still the so-called fundamental power of the same level as the creation level power, but independent of the 18 kinds of attribute energy, the power of great destruction. These introductions that made him infinitely reverie cannot avoid one of the unavoidable points. Power tempering. Maybe, I can get the answer from there. Baizi murmured, looking past the completely collapsed altar and the formation, and looked at a relic building that he had explored from his spiritual perspective. He remembered that on the gate of the palace-like ruins, there were 3 ancient writings composed of unknown totems carved, and he happened to know them. Its name is 1. Open black lens bracket Palace of Insects close black lens bracket. ... Begging _ 523. The Palace of Insects, amazing talent. It's here. Before the huge stone palace, Baizi looked at the 3 characters, Insect Palace, engraved on the outer wall covered with years and the opening of the stone gate door. His eyes narrowed. In the elf world, there are many ancient ruins that have been around for a long time. The Temple of Giants, the Pillar of the Sky, the Frigid Cave. Among them, there are legendary Pokemon without exception. But the same. The names of these relics are basically subjectively named by human beings and passed down orally in the world. It was the first time that Baizi heard about the one in front of him that had its own name. Go. For the sake of safety, Baizi did not get off the back of the wind speed dog. He rode the wind speed dog like this, holding Serena and Leo Lu, 420 inches in his arms, and carefully explored the mental power. After that, he directly broke into the gate of this stone palace. Baizi was already cautious enough, but just stepped into the stone palace. Or to be more precise, he followed the large needlebee beside him as soon as he crossed the gate of the stone palace. Next second. An invisible wave swept across everyone present in an instant, and in an instant, a sudden message filled everyone's mind. Long time. This is really, I don't know what to say. Baizi's slightly dazed expression suddenly regained clarity. His eyes were full of shock, and he couldn't help but sigh. Before the Middle Ages of the Elves, shortly after the end of the War of the Gods, the legendary tribes began to migrate in large numbers to dangerous places for unknown reasons, and gradually disappeared. And above the earth. Without the rule of the legendary ethnic group, the redistribution of resources and territories made the war break out again. At the beginning of the ethnic war, the ethnic king came into being. The winner gets everything. And loser. It can only be used as cannon fodder, slaves and even food for the upper race as a lower race. This ethnic war that has been spreading for hundreds of years is bloody and cruel, and countless elves have been forced to migrate and live without a fixed place. Even, completely eliminated by the wizard world. The protagonist of Memory was born in such an era, and his identity was nothing more than a cannon fodder, and was kept in captivity by the local hegemonic group in his forest territory. The emergency food for a slender unicorn individual that looks much smaller than its peers. Not like the protagonist in the story. Dilemma begins. But the talent is omnipotent, and the fate is changed against the sky. Not only was the unicorn worm not a talented person, but its aptitude was the last among the lowest stinger bees at that time. And in an invasion of a foreign hegemonic group, the forest territory was completely destroyed, and the large needlebee family was almost killed and injured. After repelling the invaders, the local hegemonic group simply abandoned it. And the unicorn. It was in the midst of this corpse that crawled out. It's not for hatred or some awakening of will, it's purely because of the fear of being infinitely close to death, the sense of insecurity, that made the unicorn worm born for the first time. The desire to become stronger. Have to say. Although the aptitude of the unicorn worm is weak, it has a rare talent in a certain potential. Its ability to control energy levels is extremely subtle. It was only the first experiment that a composite skill was successfully created, and based on this, the energy level was continuously researched and developed in depth. It can be said. At the intersection of the Middle Ages and the ancient times, when human beings were not yet born, and the profession of trainer had not yet appeared, the giant needlebee became the first and also its own trainer. The giant stinger is really amazing. But as an ordinary elf individual, the hornbee has a limit after all, and this limit, for the hornbee, came too early and too early. Qualifications are limited. After reaching the level of the quasi-king peak, it seems difficult for the giant hornbee to continue to progress. Especially for this kind of lone ranger who is so independent that he is almost extinct in this era of living in groups. It is really difficult to obtain the treasures of heaven and earth that break through the limit of qualifications. The fairy world is not a fantasy novel. There will be the second and third generations who are weak but carry a bunch of treasures for you to fight monsters and upgrade. Treasures of heaven and earth. Otherwise, it is directly swallowed and used at the moment of discovery. Otherwise, it is basically concentrated in the hands of powerful ethnic overlords. With the strength of the quasi-celestial king of the big needlebee, it is simply too much to want to take food from the tiger's mouth. And as a lone ranger, it has no support from the ethnic group. What is the difference between finding a needle in a haystack by relying on its own strength to search for treasures from heaven and earth? In this way, the two paths of snatch and search are equivalent to nowhere to go. Therefore, the big stinger had to find another way. Since it is difficult to continue due to the influence of aptitude, can it find a new path that will let go of the limitations of the original aptitude? The fitness and transformation utilization rate of a single or multiple of the 18 kinds of attribute energies corresponding to the elves. Under its own qualifications. In the end, however, it is because the fitness and transformation utilization rate of the corresponding energy factors of worm and poison are not high. In short, it is not highly compatible with these two attribute factors. 4.3 Then. Try another attribute. The giant stinger was the first to reject this idea. In its view, the attributes of the elf race actually represent their own selection of 18 attribute factors. Compared with the other 16 attributes, it has the highest adaptability to bug and poison. And since neither of these two works, let alone other attribute factors. P.S. The new year is really busy. The promised New Year's gift will definitely be given out before the second day of the first year. It will be delayed a little, brothers, forgive me. 524. Law is fire, power is wood. The purest, seeker. So, is there an energy factor other than the 18 attributes? The answer is naturally yes. For example, waveguide power. A kind of energy that is different from the 18 attributes. But obviously, although the power of the waveguide is not unique, the existence that really wants to go through this path, except for the Lucario family, is probably no longer possible. Can awaken to use wave power. Like the giant stinger who has no qualifications for the waveguide power at all. But, since it has the existence of a unique energy factor independent of the 18 attributes such as waveguide power, then does it mean that other extra energy that is suitable for oneself is born? Factors are also possible. This kind of thinking makes the big needlebee suddenly feel like seeing the fog. There is direction. Mind and tenacity of this giant stinger bee, which is completely different from ordinary elves, it is naturally not just fantasy. And the talent of this giant stinger is really terrifying. In constant depth of their respective dangers. In the experiment of using its own attribute energy to collide, fuse or cancel each other with other attribute factors, it gradually realized and created a special destruction and annihilation. Characteristic, the power of destruction. And deeply felt that aptitude is limited to the individual elves. It does not use and explore a new kind of power in the power of destruction, but smelts it itself to break through. The potential limit has been lifted, and the strength has risen greatly. Since then, the big needlebee has been advancing all the way, and the king, champion, quasi-god, and even the realm of the gods have not been able to bring it any hindrance. Its physical adaptability after being reborn, coupled with its thorough research on attribute factors, makes it a godlike aid in the understanding of laws. Everything seems to be done step by step. The law of the insect system is steadily improving, and the prototype of power is gradually taking shape. But until the end of the Middle Ages, the big needlebee, who is almost at the peak of the first-level god, was preparing to plan his next stage of promotion in advance as always, but suddenly found that his path was broken. It did not fully establish its foundation before reaching the realm of the gods, and now it not only has the understanding of the law of insects at the perfect level, but also borrows 8 feet 5, 6, 1, 0.9, 7, 8, 2, spirit, long, helped, the power of destruction, condense his own alien power, destruction. Looking good. But if you want to advance to the field of creation, you must establish your own core strength, just like Arceus, creation. The choice of the hornby is naturally the destruction, formed by its greatest fundamental, destruction force. But it finds only when the core is established, ready to contain the oneness. The law of insects, the power of destruction, and the power of destruction, these three core strengths that it relies on most, cannot be integrated at all. Is different from other legendary gods who take the right way. Although the power of authority has its own peculiarities, in the final analysis, it still evolves based on attribute energy. Because after all, they come from the same source. But, the power of destruction, is different. It has been completely independent of the 18 attribute energy factors, and it can almost be said to be the cornerstone of a new path. But the big stinger was using the power of destruction to form a step-by-step cohesive power prototype, and even to comprehend the power of the law of the insect system. Result. These three forces seem to be interdependent, but in essence they are not on the same path at all. Single quote. Power of destruction is the purest, completely independent of the 18 attribute factors. The law of insects is the orthodox way. And the power of destruction, although it was bred by the power of destruction, but it took the path of orthodox law to power, and as a result, the whole is completely different. So distinct, how could it be possible to merge into one? And until now, the big stinger finally realized that it didn't need to comprehend the power of the law and the embryonic form of power from the beginning. Now that a new path has been opened up, it would be better to heterogeneous, to the end, completely abandoning the so-called orthodox way, and going all the way to the black along the power of destruction. But, at this time, the giant stinger had already understood that it was too late. The law of insects and the power of power had already been deeply planted in its body, and it was impossible to abandon it now. But the stingray is not a bug that gives up easily. In the days to come, it has forcibly merged these three forces several times, but without exception, all ended in failure. However, it has also created a secret skill that combines and superimposes skills with each other. A special, smelting, method that uses the law as the fire and the power as the firewood. And, during this period, it also sheltered and taught the insect-type elves within its seclusion range, so that many strong people emerged from the insect-type elves that have been used as cannon fodder and food, allowing its own group to continue. It is also for this reason that the giant stinger is respected as the insect king by the insect group it shelters. Last of the last. After finally confirming that there is no 420 law in this state, the big needlebee who fused the three finally decided to make a desperate attempt to forcibly strip the power of the law of insects and the power of destruction from the body. This is tantamount to an ordinary human digging his heart out with his bare hands, and it can almost be said to be a mortal situation. But the giant stinger still chose to do it. But before doing this, it also reserved some preparations. If you get away with it. So, with its arrangement, it may not only be able to be reborn, but also obtain a new power of destruction after the melting. If it fails, then consider it as a great gift for the latecomers. And now it seems. Obviously, this amazing and brilliant insect king, giant stinger was not successful after all. But it has to be admitted. This large stingbee can be called the purest seeker that Baizi has seen in the elf world. For whatever reason, it never stops looking for the way forward. P.S. The new year is constantly changing. I wish everyone a prosperous year of the tiger. 525. The Six Royal Families, New Doubts, Call. I didn't expect that the elf world still had such a wild and magnificent era, and such a stunning giant sting bee. Serena opened her eyes slightly in awe, muttering in her mouth, apparently still immersed in the life of the great Needle Peak, which is not magnificent, but enough to be called a legend. Is it amazing? Baizi heard the words and smiled. With the life of this insect king, giant stinger bee, indeed it lived up to the words. Stunning. Relying on a weak insect body in the quagmire of the wild medieval war, it eventually surpassed countless hegemonic groups and even legends. Almost reached the top of the first-level God's domain, and even got a glimpse of the power of the creation domain. Such an achievement is unprecedented. Moreover, although it is not known to the world because of his personality, he is also worthy of the name of king. At this moment, the transmission of this message ends. Entire palace of insects suddenly lost its miraculousness. Walk through the corridor. Enter the eye. It is a simple temple with a square meter of 1,000 meters. On both sides of the temple are lighting decorations composed of columns, reliefs and night pearls. At the end of the stone room, there is a jade carving. Stone chair. Below. There are 3 stone statues on the left and right. Respectively 1 by 1. Vulcan moth, Heracross, giant claw mantis. With Orup, Kyrus, and stag bugs. According to the memory of the giant stinger, these 6 elves were the first to follow it, never abandoning it, and eventually multiplied to become the leaders of the 6 major groups. But it is a pity that these 6 elves, without exception, all stopped before the realm of the gods, and they all died in the Middle Ages. Perhaps the big stinger finally chose to gamble, but also because the whole world has long been careless for the reason. In addition, there is an ear room on both sides of the temple. Left. Energy center of this small secret realm, drawing energy through the array map, supporting the secret realm, and the space gate, connected to the outside world. But as a support for the entire secret realm. Array map of the realm has already been shattered in the tempering of the big needle bee with law as fire, power as firewood. Therefore, the energy center has almost collapsed, and this secret realm is almost reaching the end of its lifespan. Similarly, without the supply of the energy center, the space door naturally cannot be opened again. But Baizi didn't panic at all. Driving the wind speed dog, he went straight to the ear room on the right. What you see. On the small altar composed of familiar blue crystals and unknown ores of green and yellow, a night pearl about the size of an adult fist was enshrined in the groove of the central pillar of the altar. Crystal clear, the rare 2-color crystal blooms in the slightly dark ear chamber, which is very conspicuous. This is it. Between the words, the burning white thought power penetrated through the body. Click _. With the light rotation of the night pearl enshrined on the altar suddenly trembled slightly, and then slowly rose with the sound of click, eat. In the end, a dark hole was revealed. La. There was an obvious sense of shock on the ground, and there were gradually scattered earth and stones in the stone room. Go away. Baizi finally glanced at the direction of the temple. Seeing that the shock and the earth and stones were slipping more and more seriously, he made a decisive decision and immediately retracted the big needle bee. The wind speed dog shouted. Woo. The wind speed dog jumped. Next second. Boom, boom, boom. A violent roar erupted from behind in an instant. La. The middle of the night, southeast of Nibi City, at the north end of Road 2, there is a bank of a deep pool linked to a stream. Between the splashes of water, Baizi and Serena, who were maintaining their breathing posture, suddenly stuck their heads out of the turbulent water. View. Wei exerted a little strength to break free from Serena's instinct, and Baizi wiped her face casually, then hugged Serena's body, and swiftly rolled over from the bank of the lake. Come. Once ashore. Baizi called out the wind speed dog, reached out and patted the dog's head, and the wind speed dog immediately understood. Immediately, a warm air swept across Baizi and Serena, who were embracing each other. In a blink, the wet coldness suddenly turned into dry and warm. His body was quite refreshed, but Baizi couldn't help sighing in his heart. Sometimes, although dry is comfortable, but wet, it also has a different taste that only wet can have. Serena, I have grown up. Good half sound. Serena, who finally recovered her breath from the water, gently broke away from Baizi's arms, stroked the bangs on her forehead, and looked for a topic with a blushing face. No, I didn't expect the Palace of Insects to be linked to another underwater ruin. How did you find out, Brother Baizi? Didn't this appear in the memory of the Insect King, Big Stinger? Baizi raised his eyebrows slightly, but said on his mouth. Because I have been to this ruins before, the giant stinger once received another gift from the other party here. Baizi shrugged, but didn't hide it from her. That is, in the memory message, the Insect King orb, composed of the stripped insect attribute factor and the power of the law. Speaking of which, according to the other party's arrangement, the giant needlebee should actually go from this ruin to the ruins of the secret realm, Insect Palace, to receive the memory, and then go to the secret realm to challenge the array map. Speaking of this, Baizi was suddenly stunned. Yup. Space Gate, in the heart of the Viking forest. Insect King's gift test. I'm afraid not like. After all, if there is no Insect King orb, it cannot be activated at all, and successfully complete the power tempering of array diagram. And if the array map is not destroyed due to the tempering of power. Array map, lying in the middle of the ruins is the sky moat that entered the Palace of Insects. Unless you forcibly destroy the array map, otherwise, I am afraid that you can only be with Baizi and the others. In this way, after completing the 15 kills, he was excluded from the other side of the array map, and he was sighing and sighing. And if you want to destroy a array map that is comparable to a top legend's existence, I am afraid that without the power of a first-level god, it is impossible to shake it. Interesting. Baizi's eyes flickered, and the corner of his mouth raised a smile. Speaking of which, should I go to the heart of the Viking forest to explore again? Young was thinking. Beep beep. A rush of bells suddenly remembered. Baizi turned his eyes slightly, and saw that the elf bracelet on his left wrist instantly ejected countless virtual envelopes like a freeze. 526. The black pot that fell from the sky, Sakagi who ran away. Time went forward for 10 minutes, and it was when Baizi and his party successfully passed the collapsed array, went to the Palace of Insects, and received the life of the Insect King, Giant Stinger Bee. While remembering the message. In the heart of the Joban forest. Door, that Baizi passed through before. A middle-aged man wearing a gentleman's hat and a large trench coat came to a place more than 10 meters away from Heracross and Kairos, who were guarding both sides in front of the door. Stand still. Beside him, a large needlebee with a powerful breath quietly levitated and followed. And as he raised his head, Yinju's face was suddenly revealed. It was none other than the leader of Team Rocket, Sakagi, who had gone into hiding again after a brief appearance in Baiyin Mountain. As a trainer with the power of Vibrant, and the giant stinger. In the heart of the vibrant forest, this is a place that can be called the Kingdom of Insects. Naturally, it is impossible for him to know nothing. Legend of the Insect King, circulating in the insect system. He was originally disdainful. After all, in his opinion, no matter how strong this so-called Insect King is, can it still be forced to be a top legend with the title of God. Until he went to practice here after the Battle of Silver Mountain. After being beaten up by a huge alienated Heracross with knotted muscles, he changed the 420 method. Such an existence regards the title and inheritance of the Insect King as a godsend. What qualifications does he have to look down on? Sakagi is not the kind of person who thinks highly of himself and is blind. especially after having a deep understanding of the strength of the Royal Front Six, which occupy almost 2/3 of the site in the central area of the Viking forest. He is even more enthusiastic. Let alone the inheritance of the Insect King. But once his giant stinger can complete the test, he will succeed a new generation of Bug King. So, this single clan is enough to compare to the Yuxian 6 clans of an ancient aristocratic family, and it will be the invincible Zerg army under his command. Such power is on the surface. At that time, even if he went to the League headquarters as the leader of the Rockets, the League would have to consider whether to tear him apart. Not to mention, with such a powerful, familiar, how could this so-called Insect King be weak? Call. Sakagi breathed a deep sigh of relief, stabilized his slightly excited state of mind, and then swept his eyes to the two individuals in front of him whose bodies were obviously far larger than those of the same race. With Sakagi's eyesight, coupled with the fact that the wild elves themselves have not been systematically trained, and their breath is exposed, it is naturally not difficult to roughly estimate the general strength of the opponent. Probably around the middle of the championship. The thought turned. Sakagi immediately calmed down, and slightly raised his chin towards the giant needlebee beside him. Sizzling beer tilde. The big needlebee immediately understood it, fluttered its wings, and came to the front of the two giant guards. Looking at the giant stinger bee in front of them, Heracross and Kyrus looked at each other, and there was a little doubt in the two pairs of big eyes. To know. In previous years. Candidate, who has been called to challenge like this in 3 or 5 years. Why did a different colored giant stinger bee just come in today, and now, another one has come? Another guy with a big stinger to challenge. However, doubts are doubts. The two giant guards, who were loyal to their duties, explained the situation to the giant needlebee. Subsequently, leaning side by side, the combination shield suddenly reappeared in front of people. Oh. Sakagi also saw the extraordinariness of this move at a glance, but now is not the time to think about it, when the big needlebee turned around and tweeted a few times at it. Sakagi immediately waved his hand and said softly, "Don't be careless, use double needles." Sizzling beer tilde. The big needlebee slowly overlapped the two needles, and then, with a neigh, it turned from stillness, and immediately struck a blow. Swoosh _. The conical air cannonball is mixed with the sharp insect attribute factor and pushes forward. That unreasonable powerful force directly tore the combined shield formed by Heracross and Kyrus with a crushing potential. Followed. The violent wind slammed, tearing the two apart and lashing them to both sides. Air cannon, hit by the double needle skill remains unabated, approaching directly. La la. The trees are shaking and the leaves are flying. And just when the corner of Sakagi's mouth raised a smile. Click tilde. A small crisp sound suddenly sounded from the door. Immediately after. Click, click, click. The door leaf hits before the door leaf with great precision. Countless cracks crawled all over the door, little by little, and then, with the split eyes of Heracross and Kyrus, they exploded and shattered the ground. There was a sudden silence in the air. Sakagi's left eye jumped. Next second, Heracross and Kyrus, who had crawled up from the ground, looked up to the sky, and let out an extremely tragic cry of grief and a roar of murderous intent. Dia 111. Hey, _. Immediately after. Accompanied by the sound of insects chirping one after another powerful breath rose from the depths of the jungle. Last 0. A fierce aura that impressed Sakagi deeply, accompanied by another strong mental fluctuation that was not inferior, made Sakagi's complexion change drastically. Without further ado, Sakagi stepped forward and grabbed the hind legs of the giant needlebee. Sizzling beer tilde. The big needlebee immediately twitched its wings, as if it didn't seem to be carrying a weight of 100 pounds, and rushed towards the periphery of the vibrant forest at a high speed. But before it flew out 100 meters. Boom, _. The earth and rocks were surging, and a huge black shadow with knotted muscles fell from the sky and stopped in front of Big Needlebee and Sakagi. Next second, Sakagi, who felt his scalp explode, suddenly turned his head. I saw a petite elf shaped like a ladybug quietly suspended in the air less than a few meters away from him. 527. Giratina, the Lord of Reversal. By Z's Fury. Whoosh _. It was like a gust of wind passing through a stream, and the whistling sound was accompanied by a sonic boom, and it landed on the front yard of the Damu Research Institute on the edge of Junshin town. The earth and rocks swelled, and the grass was instantly crushed into a deep pit. The smoke and dust are going to be everywhere. But the next moment. But it was swept away by the surging thought force. Baizi silently rolled down from the back of the wind-speed dog, stepped forward, pushed the door open, entered the door, and saw Dr. Damon, who had a sad face and was startled by the noise in the front yard. Baizi, you're finally back, Tilda here. Dr. Ogi. Baizi tried his best to stabilize his inner emotions, inhaled and exhaled deeply, and just asked, Xiao Huang was attacked, what happened? Yes. Xiao Huang was attacked. This is the urgent news that Baizi received. There are dozens of emails, all of which were sent by Dr. Damu with words like, Xiao Huang was attacked, Xiao Huang disappeared, quick return. At this time, Selena also pushed the door with the wind-speed dog and walked in, looked worriedly at Baizi, who was obviously suppressing her emotions, and stood silently on the side. Dr. Damu nodded. Okay, the cause of the incident has to start from 3 days ago. 3 days ago, Baizi frowned slightly. Not bad. Dr. Damu nodded and continued. 3 days ago, that was the 6th day after the end of the wide-ranging astronomical aberration. Celestial mutation. Does it refer to the three-god bird incident that happened in Asia Island before? But. Day 6. Baizi and Selena looked at each other, and both saw a trace of surprise in each other's eyes. The time was wrong. After solving the incident of the three-god birds, he only spent 3 days in the Asian island chain to renovate. Then I set off to the vibrant forest to assist the giant stinger to complete the trial of the Insect King, but it was only in 1 day. How could it be? Is it possible that there is a difference between the time flow rate of the secret realm and the main world? Baizi's eyes flickered. Illusion Island, in the Fangyuan area also has a different time flow rate from the outside world. The difference between the time of the Illusion Island and the outside world is 7 times, but sometimes it is 7 times faster, sometimes 7 times slower. I just don't know what the time flow rate of the Insect King, secret realm looks like. But now is not the time to think about that. Moreover, the secret realm of the Insect King may have collapsed into something. All kinds of thoughts flashed in Baizi's mind. He quickly restrained his thoughts and listened intently. In the morning, I suddenly received several Pokeballs from Xiao Huang, which contained almost all of her main force. After that, I received the news that Xiao Huang was attacked and disappeared. The main force has all been transferred. Then, can it be determined that this was a premeditated ambush? After pondering for a while, Baizi swept his gaze to Dr. Damu, who was beside him. There was a gloom in those calm eyes, and even Dr. Damu, who had seen many big scenes, couldn't help his heart in a throb. That feeling. It is as if in the deep sea, it seems calm, but deeper and deeper, there is already a turbulent undercurrent of madness. Dr. Damu sighed silently from the bottom of his heart, and then replied in a deep voice. It should be correct, because according to the message passed by Alice, Xiao Huang, who was watching the World Championship with her in Galar, seemed to have received some information at the time, so he insisted on rushing to the Sheno area alone. Iris was a little worried at the back, so she rode 3 evil dragons all the way and tracked it to the snowfield in Shifeng City at the foot of Tianguan Mountain in the Shenao area. However, when she arrived, what she saw was an unbelievable scene. Xiao Huang, who was forced to the cliff by several trainer gangs, went straight to the ground as if he had fallen into the water. Into the smooth ice wall. Speaking of which, Dr. Ogie's expression was also incredulous. Quote, Alice didn't explain the situation to me in detail, but she left a few people behind and was taken away by Miss Juntia, who arrived later. Also, she told me that when Xiao Huang submerged into the ice wall, she seemed to see a phantom that looked like the king of amusement beasts passing by. Looks like the king of entertainment. Submerged in the ice wall. Baizi's eyes suddenly flashed. Quote, Yes, Giratina. The lord of the reversed world, the shadow of creation, the most mysterious Pluto dragon Giratina among the three gods. Why did this guy save, or in other words, take away Xiao Huang? Baizi's eyes were full of surprise. How could the Pluto dragon, the leader of the dignified top legends, who has always been wandering in the reversing world, interfered in the disputes of mankind? What, Baizi, do you have a clue? Dr. Damu asked quickly after seeing the change in Baizi's complexion. Not sure yet. Baizi shook his head, his eyes narrowed. I need to see Alice. She's standing in front of the ice wall in the snowfield in Shifeng City. I can arrange your itinerary right away. Dr. Damu said simply. Ask for flowers. With that said, Dr. Damu was about to start contacting acquaintances, but was stopped by Baizi. No, I have a faster way. After he finished speaking, he looked at Serena beside him. Before she could speak, Selena spoke in advance. Quote, Good. Baizi looked at Selena, nodded slowly, and said. With that, he turned around and walked out of the house. But he just opened the door. Drop. The elf bracelet made a familiar ringtone again. Baizi stretched out his hand and opened it. Brother Baizi, you can do your thing with peace of mind, and I will wait for you in Junxin town. The wind speed dog will stay with you for the time being. Next second. An astonishing chill immediately rose from his body. 0. Bye, brother Baizi. Baizi, what happened? Wu tilde. Behind him came the inquiries of Serena and Dr. Ogi, and the whimpering of the wind speed dog. Nothing. Baizi didn't look back. After waving his hand, he walked straight out. Sit in the air. In the courtyard, Baizi violently threw out the pokeball, and stepped directly onto the back of Lai Kongxi, and shouted coldly. Fly at full speed. Go to the Shino area. Roar tilde. Lai Kongxi let out a violent roar that stunned the four fields, and a steady stream of dragon elements continued to emerge from his body, wrapping Baizi all over his body, and the dragon's tail stretched out. Like a rocket propulsion, it goes straight into the sky above the clouds. Boom, underscore. The violent sonic boom was long overdue. The terrifying wind pressure cut out countless cracks in the grass of the courtyard, and everything in front of the gate of the institute was like being plowed over, leaving a mess. It was only at this moment that Dr. Damu snatched it out of the house, feeling the shocking pokeball around his waist and the pressure of the energy level remaining in the courtyard. After a long time, he murmured in an extremely dry voice, God's domain. God's domain. P.S. Let me explain here that it's not that the time Silmarillion in Baizi's hands is useless, but that the time Silmar resists the time ripples that spread to Baizi. The secret realm of the insect king time belongs to a whole, and the difference is mainly the flow rate of the main world. The time diamond cannot anchor the time flow rate of the entire secret realm. Also, there are people in the family. Let me delay for a day. Count today's lesser ding yiding begging. 528. Stubborn, swooping black flashing black sky sits. Change, must see. The air hummed and the wind howled. Under Lai Kong's super high speed, Baizi left the town limits of Junxin town in the blink of an eye, and quickly approached in the direction of Q City. The Shanao area is located in the northeast of the adjacent Guandu, Chengdu and Hoan areas, separated by the Juxia Sea area. If it is marked according to the orientation of the map, it happens to be connected between Junxin town and Q City. Direction extension. Standing on the back of Lai Kong's seat, Baizi's eyes silently filtered through the afterglow of the frantic retreat on both sides. Under the filter of Lai Kongzai's incomparably delicate flight factor, the gusty wind of Ling Lai suddenly felt like a light breeze, slightly cool, but gradually dispelled some of the tyranny in Bai Zi's heart. Moment. With his legs crossed, he reopened the anonymous message received by the elf bracelet one by one. Open black lens bracket Xiaohuang Dai Jopan Lilac is in our hands. If we want her to be safe and sound, we will bring all the phantom beasts and legendary elves and go to the number 14 island reef in the Juxia waters alone. Wait, close black lens bracket. 4020. So, it's for me. Bai Zi suddenly laughed, and even couldn't help laughing out loud. Moment. He restrained his laughter, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Well, I'm worried about how to find you. Reach out and pull the entire virtual screen projected by the elf bracelet. Afterwards, his fingers were flying, and he began to operate in a dazzling manner. The data stream was rapidly moving on the screen, reflecting in Bai Zi's eyes. So few minutes. Bai Zi looked at the red, link disconnected pop-up window popped up on the screen, his eyes flickered. The opposite side obviously has quite complete network protection, and this is the first time Bai Zi has it was detected during a network intrusion. Although he failed to successfully invade the other party's network, he did not gain anything. In this position, moving his fingers to search for a moment, Bai Zi's eyes flashed, unnamed plane. This time in Fangyuan. 11 to be able to clarify the location of Xiaohuang in Galar. Arrange traps and siege in Shanao. Now. Send anonymous letters to myself far away in Kanto in the plains where there are few human beings. Interesting, more and more interesting. The chill in Bai Zi's eyes became more and more astonishing, because he suddenly had an intuition. Perhaps, this time the number of people involved would be quite extensive. But things are prioritized, and now the most important thing is of course Xiaohuang's safety. He needs to determine the accuracy of the information about Giratina, and then, perhaps also learn the origins of those attackers. Shanao, in front of the ice wall of Shifeng Icefield, Adek, the current champion of the Uzhang region, who should have been preparing for the next challenge in Galar, was walking back and forth, with a solemn expression. Moment. He turned his gaze not far away, and at this time was sitting cross-legged on the snow, against Alice, who was facing the mirror-smooth ice wall in front of him. At this time, the healthy wheat complexion on Alice's face was already blue and white, and the bags under her eyes were marked with a clear black circle. Woohoo, underscore. The icy cold wind roared, and the wind sword and frost sword blew wantonly on Alice and Adek. At this time, Adek finally couldn't help but stepped forward again, pressed Alice's shoulders, and stared at the girl who he entrusted to the future of Hezhong. Alice, you wake up, Xiaohuang. Adek paused, couldn't help recalling the pure girl in his mind, and then continued. I know you're worried about Xiaohuang's safety, but it's not your fault. Besides, the way you are now, apart from punishing yourself, is useless at all. In the last sentence, Adek's voice even covered feng shui, but Alice's eyes did not deflect in the slightest, and she still stared at the ice wall. The veins on Adek's forehead burst. But in the end, alas, he could only sigh irritably, and sat on the snow with a drum like that. Since he learned the news the day before yesterday, he has rushed here overnight regardless of his upcoming tournament qualifying match. After learning about Xiaohuang's situation, he even specially summoned Catalia, the new superpower king of Hezhong, to investigate the iceberg carefully for Alice's sake. But obviously, nothing. And after, no matter how he persuaded, Alice was unwilling to leave the place where Xiaohuang disappeared, and she kept berating herself for not being alert and arriving in advance. As a result, Xiaohuang fought alone, and finally disappeared inexplicably in front of her. Alice didn't even let fire, or more precisely, did not allow any actions that might affect the ice wall. Alas. Adek scratched his head a little irritably. In fact, he was recently entrusting the relationship to investigate the source of this group of people, but even with his contacts of the champion, he was actually looking for a while. Can't figure it out. Those guys caught by Alice were all black dead men without any identity, and there was no way to cut out each other's tongues. Seriously, watching Alice punish himself like this, he even raised the idea of disregarding it and finding a superpower spirit to read the memory. But if you want to read the memory completely, it is difficult to achieve the spiritual power without reaching the Heavenly King level. He doesn't have a superpower type Heavenly King level elf in his hand. And although Catalia is the 4 kings of the alliance under his command, after the other party is famous, and the relationship between the superpower family itself and the alliance is very delicate, it is obviously impossible to go doing this stimulates the nerves of the top leaders of the alliance, and it is still a ban on 3 orders and 5 applications. But if it continues like this, Xiao Huang can find 2 words, but Alice will definitely be unable to hold it. It really doesn't work. Attic's eyes flickered, just as he was thinking about whether to use coercion. Boom, underscore. In the sky, there was a sudden sound of incomparably violent vibration. At the same time, an invisible sense of oppression came suddenly. Adek only felt a tingling in his scalp, and the moment he almost subconsciously threw all the hands, he suddenly jumped up and stopped in front of Alice. His eyes skipped the Vulcan moth in front of him. Above the sky. Now, the atmosphere sank like a substance, and in the swept cloud 4.3 sky, a slender black dragon swooped in, swooping in his direction. That is. Let's sit in the air. P.S. I saw a lot of people talking about the ghost dragon. Let me explain it. The appearance of the ghost dragon has nothing to do with the villains. Those villains are completely for the protagonist. Son, to stabilize the rear, the ghost dragon is another line. I am writing these now, plus the championship, in fact, to let the protagonist complete the integration in terms of deterrence, strength, and hope, and then start to arrange and dark super dream and so on. The final battle of the rainbow rockets, but everyone is in such a hurry, then I will arrange the plot again, reduce the foreshadowing, and I will delete the new chapter, rewrite it, alas tilde. 529. The flame bird that sits and fights with Lai Kong, the black and white double dragon of my aunt. Foreshadowing, ask. The reason why the legendary elves are called legends is that they have the nature of being passed down by themselves, and the other reason is that they are the root of their spread, that is, great power. Same. It is precisely because of the exposure and spread of their respective powers that these legendary elves were given the name. None of the legendary elves are simple. This point can be drawn from the bits and pieces of memory left by the Insect King, Giant Stinger. Although they are in the turning period of the Middle Ages when the legends are basically reclusive, it is not that the Insect King, Giant Stingray has not seen the legendary shots. Especially in the years it traveled. Among them, there is the life and death struggle between the flame bird and Lai Kong's eye. Does it feel incredible? In the eyes of many Pokemon fans, they belong to the lowest level of legends, and the 3 gods of the bad street can actually sit in front of Lai Kong, the leader of the first-level gods. But it did happen. But after a brief period of astonishment, Baizi quickly came to his senses. Which of the ethnic groups that could obtain a position in the pre-Middle Ages era when legends were rampant was easy. In fact, before modern times, especially before the establishment of the Alliance, the news of the legendary elves revealing to the public still happened from time to time. But with the establishment of the Alliance, those legends that were closely related to human beings have basically disappeared, and they are rarely known anymore. But as a regional champion who has been in power for decades, the famous Adek, who sits in the sky, the god of the sky, still understands. But it was precisely because of his understanding that Adek was shocked at this moment. Lai Kong sits. Top legends. And the top legends are also honored as gods. In the name of gods, the respect in this is obvious, but at the same time, it also shows that these top legends are unattainable. Known to Adek. Except for the 2 black and white dragons who chose the legendary hero, the other high-level and even top-level legends have never heard that they can be envoys by human trainers. Even the black and white Sangyang in their Hujong area. It didn't look like a human envoy at all. On the contrary. These two black and white double dragons, who have been fighting for more than 1,000 years because of their ideas, are more like looking for tool people to prove their ideas. Tisk tisk, auntie. But right now. Adek stared blankly at the boy who jumped down from the head of the black flashing Lai Kong Si, feeling the faint power of the Lai Kong sitting, subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. You are, Tilda. Adek looked at Bai Zi, feeling a little familiar. And then. Bai Zi. A faint cry came from behind, and in the next second, Alice stumbled towards her as if she had found the backbone. Xiao Huang, she. It's all my fault. I couldn't catch up. Bai Zi was slightly stunned, somewhat surprised by Alice's attitude towards him. However, feeling the weak breath of the black girl in his arms, and the sadness and guilt that were almost beyond words, he couldn't help but soften his expression. Okay, with me here, Xiao Huang will be fine. Press the back of Alice's head. Next second. Bai Zi's power, like the warm sun, suddenly invaded Alice's body silently, soothing the other party's mood. At the same time, with a surge of mental power, Alice, who was already vulnerable, fell into a drowsiness. So you were Bai Zi. It was only then that Adek remembered the identity information about Bai Zi, the monster-level rookie who recently gained fame, that is, the big brother who was often talked about by Xiao Huang. Champion of Adek. Bai Zi nodded to the middle-aged man with a stunned expression on the opposite side, and glanced casually at the few elves in front of him. Subsequently, he straightened his waist a little and released Shinado. Sana Tilda. Shinado called out softly. Shinado, come and help. When the words were normal, Bai Zi's eyes suddenly flashed, and his face showed joy. There have been a lot of things recently, and some have ignored you. Congratulations, you have officially entered the realm of quasi-gods, Shinado. Yes, Shinado went a step further and silently called his hands. Talking. He stroked the top of Shinado's head. Sana Tilda. Shinado stepped on her feet slightly, and her head pushed up on her own initiative. Shinado was not very happy about the promotion, but she gained Bai Zi's attention and congratulations, but it made her very happy. After all, with the two secret treasures of Super Orb and World Tree Species, her spirit and vitality were already in a saturated or even overflowing state. The reason why he has been unable to successfully advance to quasi-god is entirely because he was blocked by the understanding of the law. But obviously, now this obstacle has also been quietly passed by Shinado. Race, Shinado Purple Flash, X form, Y form. Attribute, Super Fairy. Characteristics, Synchronization, Telepathy, Monty. Level, Quasi-God Elementary, Level 80, 5/100. Potential, Level 1 God. HP, 168 Attack, 165 Defense, 165 Special Attack. Exclusive Skills, Super Annihilation, Spiritual Smash. Skill, Mind Power, Slightly. Genetic Skills, Black Eyes, Farewell Gifts. 135 125 Special Defense, 115 Speed, 180. Status, Perfect. Props, Super Orb, World Tree Species. Open black lens bracket law comprehension, 0.5% close black lens bracket. Introduction, talented, possessing a powerful spiritual power far beyond that of the same clan. It perfectly integrates the genetic sequences of the two superior legends of Dream and Cheomung, thus obtaining a transcendent supernatural power. Power and ability, the body contains the ultimate power of super evolution. Push the comprehension of the law to 0.5% just after the breakthrough. Bai Zi's eyes crossed a wisp of admiration, nodded and said, since the breakthrough has reached the realm of quasi-gods, then this matter for you, I'm more at ease. Shinado, extract Alice's memory. I need to know what Xiao Huang saw in the incident of being attacked and disappeared. You. Adek suddenly looked shocked, but when he was about to say something, I saw the strangely colored Shinado slightly sideways glance at it. Up next second, he felt that he was being held in place by an irresistible force, unable to move or speak. A layer of faint purple ons, like a freeze frame, is also frozen in place. It's mind power. It turned out to be a quasi-god rank. Rolling his eyes, he looked to the side. His main forces floated all over his body. 530. Determine the target, Baizi who has a headache. Sorry, Adek champion. Baizi said an apology, but he didn't mean to let Shinado release his mind power. Instead, he raised his chin and gestured in the direction of Adek, and asked. Quote. Doesn't it affect? I don't want to hurt this little girl. This is also the reason why he didn't do it himself. Memory extraction. This is a very delicate job. Without enough control, it will inevitably cause irreparable damage to the person being extracted. Influences. After all, Alice is not an enemy, and her relationship with Xiao Huang, especially her performance this time, has made Baizi take Alice as her own. Sana tilde. Shinado seemed to be a little resentful of Baizi's underestimation of her, and when he raised his arm, he pointed directly at Alice's temple on one side. Slightly dazed, a little on lit up from Shinado's fingertips. Moment. With her eyes still closed, Shinado raised her other palm and danced rapidly in midair. Not long after, a picture book drawn by purple thought lines suddenly condensed in midair, and was refracted by light. Angle, let the picture render color. Xiao Huang who gradually disappeared into the ice wall, Xie Mi in Xiao Huang's arms, and the surrounding trainers. As well as behind Xiao Huang, there is a huge phantom shadow like a reflection. Like a dragon, the slender gray 420 body is covered with golden metal armor and spikes, and its back is floating. 3 teams of streamers moving like wings. Can't go wrong. This guy is the Pluto dragon Giratina. Giratina origin form. Ghost dragon. Baizi's eyes were dark, and for a moment, he turned his attention to the group of attackers surrounding Xiao Huang. Turn around. In the end, it was fixed on one of the figures. The gray upturned short hair, the red tights and the wrapping cloak, and the blood-winged dragon under her feet. Hunter J. Baizi raised his eyebrows slightly and recognized this person. According to this little girl's memory, this Hunter J once attacked her, and then was defeated by Xiao Huang and handed over to Miss Junsha of Vibrant City. Shinei Duo's warm voice reached Baizi's ears, causing his eyes to flash again. To know. As the top 10 of the Alliance's most wanted list, the arrest of a special A-level elf hunter and a character like Hunter J will inevitably attract the attention and detention of the Alliance. It is definitely not an ordinary person who can fish such a guy out of the prison. It seems that the people who are looking for trouble for me also include the high-level personnel of the Alliance. Moreover, it will never be a general high-level, a secretary, or a standing member of the council. Oh, it's interesting. After pondering for a moment, Baizi temporarily extinguished the cold light in his eyes. He must have revenge for this matter, but there is no need to worry. For now, the first and foremost thing is to get Xiao Huang back safely. As for finding the culprit behind the scenes, these people consider themselves secretive. But for Baizi, as long as the general direction is determined, then it is enough to lead Shinado to search the memory one by one. I believe that no one can hide secrets in the hands of quasi-god-level super-elves. Thoughts swirled in his mind. But soon, Baizi regained his thoughts and focused on Giratina. Obvious. Reverse world, of the Pluto dragon Giratina. I want to save Xiao Huang. So first and foremost, is to open the door to the reverse world. The connection between worlds, without a doubt, requires the power of space. Therefore, the natural god of space that Baizi thought of at the first time. But soon, Baizi shook his head. Because Palkia is known as the god of space, living in the space slit outside the latitude of the main world of the elves, CFED, it looks very full. But it is the same as its old enemy, the god of time, Dialga. All of them have loud names, but in fact, the utilization of time and space is far from satisfactory. Not to mention, although Giratina and Giratina were both created by the creation god, Arceus, Giratina has a faint hold on Palkia and Dialga. Just like the ice dragon Kyurem in the Three Dragons of the Way, in the Hujong area, it is the same as the black and white double dragons. Therefore, deeply doubts whether Palkia can open up Giratina's reverse world. And after excluding Palkia, Baizi is first and foremost equivalent to the Phantom Beast Yeehahu, dubbed by many Pokemon fans as the true space god, and the super demon god of the Halo. Pa. In the theatrical version of Super Demon God of Halo, Hoopa, the Shadow, who liberated Hoopa once summoned and controlled 6 legendary treasures with the halo of his exclusive skill, Different Dimension Cave. Dream. And this one. The Pluto Dragon, Giratina, who lives in the inverted world. As far as Baizi knew, the halo created by Hoopa's exclusive skill, Different Dimensional Cave, is bidirectional. That is to say, as long as he gets Hoopa's help, he can use this to lead to the reverse world. And compared to living in the space slit, the equally hard to find Palkia, where Hoopa is located, is clearly explained. In the creation of the Carlos area. In the Valley of the World. But, although Hoopa is indeed a very suitable candidate, Baizi is not sure whether Hoopa in a state of punishment can do the same thing as liberating Hoopa. Furthermore, before he truly understood the meaning of punishment, Hoopa couldn't leave the Valley of Creation, in order to ban it. That is to say, Baizi is very likely to enter the inversion world, but can't come out. So, I must be ready to release the evil power that Hoopa was sealed in the jug of punishment, and to break the bondage bound to Hoopa. This is really. Thinking of this, Baizi, who was signaling Shinado to stop reading Alice's memory, rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. No matter what, it's not an easy thing. Do not do well. He even plans to fight against the power of Arceus. 531. To conquer Hoopa, go to Alola. And the reason why Arceus is involved, this needs to start from the experience of Hoopa. About 100 years ago, the curious and childlike Hoopa appeared in a barren and impoverished coastal town that was the predecessor of the desert city in the Carlos area. Hoopa took some food, but brought countless gold and silver treasures to the town, which made the town usher in a short-lived prosperity. But then, out of the instigation of the town residents who wanted to see the power of Hoopa, in order to prove that he was powerful, Hoopa summoned many legends to defeat them one by one, and on a whim destroyed Tilda. That's why. It was followed by Ghoulies, a traveler who was born in the Valley of Creation, and had the power to communicate with Arceus, and use the jug of punishment to seal the power. In the end, it turned into a form of punishment and was taken to the Valley of Creation to survive. So, in the final analysis, the power to seal Hoopa came from Arceus. But fortunately, this is not really about facing Arceus, and with the current timeline, Arceus, the alpaca, is estimated to be sleeping, or whether it is true or not, in the tangle of destroying humanity. Therefore, boss of the elf world directly. But Baizi's actions have always been prepared for a rainy day. Even if it is very likely that he will not directly encounter Arceus, his handed-down power should not be underestimated. Fortunately, according to the plot in the original book, Ghoulies' descendants should not conflict with his purpose. They are also trying to liberate Hoopa's power. However, if you want to restore Hoopa's power to his heyday, I am afraid that a fight will inevitably be necessary. Baizi touched his chin. Once you fight Hoopa's evil body, in addition to considering the legendary elves that the opponent will summon, you must also consider whether it will cause the space to collapse like the original. If that is the case, in this period of time when Arceus has not been influenced, another method that can be turned around is needed. Necrozma. Baizi once again thought of this glorious god who is still waiting for him in the ultimate world. With Necrozma's ability to open holes, anytime, anywhere, it will definitely be the best turnaround hole card. And if you win the Great God of Radiance, then the success rate of getting Hoopa will definitely increase. Going around and going back to Necrozma. Baizi sighed softly. But since he had already made a decision, Baizi didn't hesitate much. Champion a deck, Alice, please send it to the Elf Center to take care of it, and tell her that I will take care of Xiao Huang's affairs and let her cultivate well. After releasing Alice's 2-axe dragon and handing Alice to it, Baizi warned a deck. Next second, he took Shinado's little hand, disappeared in place, and reappeared on top of Lai Kongxi's head. With a wave of Shanaduo's hand, a layer of psychic shield was instantly generated. Immediately after. Chirp, _. With Lai Kong sitting on the dragon's tail and swinging, the air hummed, and in the blink of an eye, there was only a long flowing cloud line left in the sky. No, then you'll let me go, Tilda. A deck roared inwardly. But the next moment, he felt his body loosen, and he was freed from the confinement of mind power. Call. Subconsciously, he let out a sigh of relief. Like this feeling of life and death being controlled by others, it was half a sound. He stared at the flowing cloud lines gradually dissipating in the sky, and couldn't help shaking his head and sighing. Lady, terrifying. A deck has not experienced it in years. Beep, beep, beep. In the sky, with a few busy voices, the communication was quickly connected, and Yayi's beautiful face suddenly appeared on the virtual screen. Brother Baizi, why did you remember to call me? Yayi blinked her big watery eyes, and her bright little face was full of joy. Subsequently, he immediately took out a small box and opened it, showing off to Baizi on the screen. Look at Baizi, I have already got 5 gym badges of the United Alliance. Oh, there are only 3 Tuco. ... Ask for flowers. Tutor. Baizi raised his eyebrows in surprise. Immediately after, Tuzi's familiar voice was heard from the screen. It's clearly the reason why you idiot challenged in advance, okay. Baizi. Lusha Manai's soft face also poked out from behind Mei, and she greeted Baizi with her eyes bent. But as her eyes swept across Baizi's face and the stratus clouds that kept passing behind Baizi on the screen, a pair of willow eyebrows suddenly wrinkled slowly. Baizi, what happened? 0. Baizi raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, it's not a big deal. Recently, I've been unwittingly trying to hit me. I'm worried that you will be affected by it. Is that so? Lusha Manai's eyes wandered, but she didn't ask any further questions. Then, Baizi specially warned them not to act alone, not to leave the elves, etc., and then ended the call with Mei and Lusamine. The main reason for Xiao Huang's accident was that he directly handed over all the main force without any precaution. Based on the experience of Lusha Manai's doomsday survival, Baizi believed that she would not make such a low-level mistake after being instructed. Not to mention, now, in their accompanying team, they have also joined Toko, the real hero who carries the white dragon Reshiram with him. Alola. Looking at the scenery in front of him that was crazily zooming in towards him, Baizi's eyes flashed with reminiscence. Hurry up. He tapped the back of Lai Kong's seat. Next moment. As if the gravitational force of the atmosphere was suddenly pulled and twisted, the slender black shadow galloping cut through the stratus clouds in the path. As far as the eye can see, it is like a stretch of cloud sea gully. Begging _ 532. Goodbye Rusamine, frankly. Allura area. Ether Paradise. This artificial island surrounded by the 4 islands of Alola is located in the top room of a huge experimental building at the very center. As the chairman of the Ether Foundation, the group chairman that includes almost everything in Alola, that is, Rusamine of this world, who is concentrating on handling official business. Quite a while. After finally finishing all the important things at hand today, Lusamine let out a long sip of aroma, and took a sip of the completely cold coffee on the side. After a moment of relief, Lusamine subconsciously swept across the photo frame erected on the desk, that little man with a bright smile. The same soft blonde hair as herself, pure white the dress, the delicate and lovely face, and the pair of 420 is almost identical to that guy's splendid pupils. Lusamine subconsciously clenched the coffee cup in her hand, her green fingers turning blue and white. For her daughter, Rusamine's feelings are very complicated. Her own flesh and blood is naturally loved, but at the same time, every time she sees the other's pair of pupils that are more and more similar to the other party, it always makes her subconsciously escape. Although Lusamine has never reduced her attention to her only daughter Lily, but the same, because these eyes will always evoke an almost crazy obsession in her heart. The company is getting less and less. Fortunately, Lily seems to be very gifted, with an unparalleled affinity for elves, and the lack of companionship can still be compensated for. Is also well aware of the nanny group, formed by the overlord elves owned by Lily. Also, it was precisely because of this that Lusamine was able to maintain her composure after learning that Lily had run away from home. In her opinion, a team of overlord elves with an exceptional level of combat power is enough to ensure Lily's safety. Not to mention, she is very aware of the ultimate killer hidden in this nanny group. It is precisely because of the existence of this person that Lusamine temporarily put out the fight to bring Lily back. Calculate. Because unless she goes out in person. Otherwise. Even the most elite hidden power under her command, as long as the other party does not give face, they will also do the same. Think of this. Rusamine pinched her brows with a headache. He ran away without saying a word. The old and the young are indeed virtuous. Rusamine suddenly stopped talking, and after a long time, her expression dimmed. I will definitely get you back. The voice was small, but very firm. But she fell silent. The sound of breaking through the sky suddenly resounded from above, and a familiar and unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded not far from her. Long time no see, Rusamine. And G.T. Quote. The blonde royal sister suddenly raised her head and looked at the one person and one elf who appeared in the room at an unknown time. A different purple flashing Shenado. And by Z. Rusamine paused word by word and called out the name of the silver-haired boy who suddenly appeared in the room. You. Why, are you surprised to see me? Feeling the extremely complicated look cast by the other party, containing shock, joy, disbelief, and even a bit of disillusionment, Baizi couldn't help but touch his nose. Why is this look? Does it feel a little wrong? But he didn't think too much, and at this time he didn't have time to think too much. Without waiting for Rusamine to ask more, she said bluntly, Rusamine, this time I'm here because I need your help with something. Lusamine still looked at him blankly. Baizi blinked. Repeated it again. Lusamine, I need your help with something, I don't know. Good. The speech was interrupted. The expression of Lusamine, who had regained her composure, was still complicated. But she answered bluntly. Then, in front of Baizi, she lifted a corner of the tabletop, pressed down with her jade finger, and said, Clear the alarm. And in this moment, Baizi suddenly felt a few powerful breaths that rushed into the range of spiritual sense in a flash, but quickly retreated. 8 paths, 2 champions, and 6 kings at their peak. At this moment, Shenado's voice sounded from the bottom of his heart, making Baizi unable to hold back his pupils. You. At this time, Rusamine lifted her head, opened her mouth slightly, and finally couldn't help but ask, Didn't you come to this world with my elder sister this time? Baizi was stunned for a moment, but he quickly understood what Rusamine meant, and explained with a smile, You may have misunderstood, Rusamine. Well, the other Rusamine does indeed. It is a parallel time and space from another world. But I'm from this world. It's just that it's slightly different from the timeline you're in, about a dozen years away from the flow rate. I should have traveled through time at that time, from the future, that is, a few months ago. Past. Afterwards, Rusum and I, the other you and I also returned to the original time and space to live together. Baizi did not hide it, and tried his best to explain the situation at that time to Rusumin in this world in concise words. This, so, 4.3 inches. At this moment, Rusum and I suddenly smiled reluctantly. That's right. She grabbed the edge of the desk hard, and the blue veins appeared on the back of her white hand, and she pulled the topic away. Baizi, you said you need my help, what's the matter? Things are a bit complicated. In short, there is someone who is very important to me, trapped in a special place. For this. Baizi's eyes are solemn. I need to go to the ultimate space. And G.T. Lusa Manai's pupils shrank suddenly. P.S. Luca Mina Sigo tilde. 533. The Lord of the Deep Sea, the dark flash-eyed. Ultimate space. Rusamin swept across Baizi's solemn face without a trace, her thoughts flew. The research on the ultimate space is the secret in the secret of the Ether Foundation, and those who know it except herself in addition, it can be said that there are only a handful of them. Even the core members of her research team know only some furs about ultimate aura, and ultimate alien beasts. The technology to open and travel through parallel time and space has always been in her hands. So, how on earth did he find out about the ultimate space? And, why can I be sure that I have a way to let him enter the ultimate space? All kinds of thoughts flashed through Lusamin's mind. She wanted to find out, but when the words came to her mouth, they only turned into a word of, good. Quote. Come with me. With a sigh in her heart, Rusamina immediately got up and came to the bookcase in front of the wall on the side of the desk. Reach for one of the white hardcover books. Next second. 25 with a click sound, the wall suddenly slid away to both sides, revealing an invisible indoor elevator. Rusum and I stepped in, and Baizi and Shinado also followed into the elevator. With Rusum and I pressing the only elevator button. The elevator officially started. You can clearly feel that it is descending, but it runs very smoothly. Standing inside, you can't feel any bumps and shakes at all. There was a brief silence in the air. Looking at the beautiful woman beside him, Baizi's eyes flickered. Compared to his own, Rusum and I, who has been tempered in the apocalypse, but still has a girlish atmosphere, the one in front of him, although less the awe-inspiring bearing of a warrior, but the whole body is full of a mature and glamorous charm, which makes people unable to resist the desire to conquer. Sin, Sao thief. Baizi, who noticed that his mind was a little crooked, quickly retracted his eyes and meditated in his heart. Call. And Lusamine, who noticed that Baizi's eyes moved away, also suddenly loosened, and a blush appeared on her cheeks. Wow, As the closed elevator doors slid open to both sides, Rusamine stepped out in a hurry with a hint of escape. But just as she took a step, her expression suddenly froze. Not good. Lusha Manai's pupils trembled. Almost subconsciously she wanted to return to the elevator to prevent Baizi from entering. But unfortunately, before she could take action, Baizi had already walked out with Shinado one step ahead, stood by her side, and turned his eyes towards the end of the large laboratory. Next second. Sana tilde. Shinado stopped in front of Baizi with a flicker, and Baizi, who could see the indoor scene, couldn't help but squinted his eyes. Because before a column of experimental instruments at the end of this laboratory, the heads of the researchers at work were all attached to a jellyfish-shaped elves. The moment Baizi and his party stepped into it, all of these people turned around stiffly and stared at them with numb eyes, like corpses being manipulated. Virtual-eyed. Baizi's eyes flickered slightly, and he recognized these strange-shaped elves at the first time. Eyed, a kind of ultimate alien beast, numbered UB01, Parasite. And as its number, Parasite, takes its name from ID, the void possesses the ability to parasitize other creatures and manipulate them. Glancing at a glance, all of a sudden, the strength of these imaginary-eyed came into view one by one. Open black lens bracket Zuu-eyed, the peak of the quasi-king. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Zuu-eyed, quasi-Tianwang intermediate. Close black lens bracket. Virtual. There are a total of 6, basically all of them are floating up and down in the realm of the quasi-celestial king, and the strongest one is already close to the level of the heavenly king. Moreover, at the moment of discovering Baizi and Shinado, these illusory ids all showed obvious attack intentions. One by one, they floated up in the direction of Baizi, and at large or small purple liquid condensed in front of me. Sana tilde. Shinado's eyes froze. Stop. A squeak. Next second. Hum underscore. The invisible thought wave suddenly surged out, and the few virtual EDIDS on the opposite side were shot straight into the air. Woo. And the void-eyed that was knocked into the air also seemed to be seeing each other. After floating from the ground, he controlled his body to crawl on the ground. Shinado moved again. At the same time. With a wave of the palm, a lavender hood was instantly summoned to wrap her and Baizi. Baizi turned his head and looked to the side through the lavender hood. At this moment, Lucamine's blonde hair was flying like a waterfall, and her expression was gloomy. Above her head, a humanoid elf resembling a bell-shaped jellyfish floated quietly, its tentacles fluttered, and its dark translucent body floated slowly as if it were in the deep sea. This is a flashing virtual id with a different color scheme. Moreover, the strength is very strong. Race, void-eyed, dark flash. Attribute, rock poison. Characteristic, alien beast upgrade, exclusive beast. Level, quasi-god 420 beginner, level 80, 85 100ths. Potential, quasi-god. HP, 109, attack, 53, defense, 47, special attack, 127, special defense, 131, speed, 103. Skills, binding, dissolving liquid, clearing smoke, power divide, defense divide, venom shock, venom, venom trap, power gem, invisible rock, mirror reflection, wonderful sky time, strong mentality. Law comprehension, super energy department 0.2%. Open black lens bracket status, perfect close black lens bracket. Introduction. The ultimate alien beast who has set foot in the realm of quasi-gods, one of the lords of the ultimate deep sea, and has an excellent ability to comprehend super energy factors. Quasi-god level. Baizi glanced a little strangely at Rusamine, who bowed his head and remained silent, and then set his eyes on the comprehension of the laws of this kind of flashing illusory-eyed. 0.2% of the superpower system. To be honest, this is the first time that Baizi has seen an elves who have laws and comprehension completely separated from their own attributes. Certainly. Here we need to rule out the powerful crocodile who has lost his shit. After all, that guy is an external influence, and the heterochromatic illusory-eyed in front of him is obviously not the one of the powerful crocodile. Shackles katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. 534. Painful and happy necrozma. Because of this sudden scene, the atmosphere in the laboratory was slightly condensed. Erching. Lusha Manai took the lead in withdrawing the illusory-eyed, with a look of panic that Baizi couldn't understand. Baizi. After a pause, he regained his composure and explained. The parasitism of the virtual id will not cause any irreparable damage to the human body, and I have signed an agreement with these people in advance, just for confidentiality, not forcible manipulation. It's okay. Baizi patted Shinado on the shoulder and motioned to release the hood. He smiled and shook his head at Lusa Manai. After all, I'm not a messenger of justice. What's more, you brought me to a place like this without any hesitation for my business. Why do I have to accept this love? Help me open the ultimate hole. He could feel Rusamine's undefended kindness towards him, and since that's the case, it's not a terrible evil, and he doesn't have any spare time to uphold justice. After all, with Baizi's temperament, although he generally belongs to chaos and goodness, he has always been helpful to his relatives. Luca Mina smiled. Subsequently, she began to command the staff who were controlled by Zuluide to perform dazzling and complicated operations. These people are all top scientific research talents in my secret network. In order to keep them secret, I signed relevant agreements with them in advance, and then used the false ID under my jurisdiction to send mails. Students, to study the subject of time and space travel. Lusha Manai also joined in, and while operating the machine, explained to Bai Zi. By the way, Void ID is the name of these jellyfish-like elves. They are a special type of ultimate space, that is, among the ultimate alien beasts that have been circulated in the Alola region since ancient times. One of the... Okay. As Rusamine said, she pressed the last button. Next second, a twisted purple-black void with multicolored optical fibers on the edge appeared above a machine similar to a portal base not far from Bai Zi. This is the ultimate cave leading to the ultimate space, but for the time being, the only place I can clearly locate is the ultimate deep sea. If you want to go to other places, remember you have to do a good job of positioning in advance. After heaving a sigh of relief, and after doing a few more detailed inspections, Lusamine straightened up and warned. That's right. She took out a few suction cup-shaped machines, a small handful of badges, and several ultimate balls from the drawer of the console, and stuffed them into Bai Zi's hands. The high wave locator for these sucker-like things. Remember to do a few more positionings when you explore the ultimate space to avoid getting lost. This badge is an energy filter. The environment in the ultimate space is harsh. Wearing it can avoid the discomfort caused by the harsh environment. There is also the ultimate ball. This is a pixie ball specially designed to capture the characteristics of the ultimate alien beast. Rusamine dragged Bai Zi and told him for a long time, until she felt the other person's surprised gaze. Then she stopped talking a little shyly, took a step back, turned her eyes slightly, and stroked the ear next to her temple. Anyway, be careful along the way. Thank you. Bai Zi nodded with a smile, put on a badge, put the rest of the things into the small space pocket, and then looked at Shinado. Let's go. Sana. Shinado nodded slightly, waved her hand, and her lavender thought force suddenly turned into a spherical shape, wrapping herself and Bai Zi in it, and plunged straight into the twisted wormhole. A moment, mind. Structurally stabilize the position, and detect the spatial fluctuations of the ultimate cave at any time. Also, call all the ultimate special attack teams stationed in the ultimate cave. After confirming that Bai Zi had passed through the ultimate hole safely, Rusamine quickly gave an order. The light blue energy stance rose from the pedestal below the ultimate hole, imprisoning the unstable ultimate hole in the void. Staring blankly at the imprisoned ultimate cave, Lusamine's expression was complicated. It's not that she doesn't want to follow Bai Zi's side, but she knows that staying behind to ensure the way back is the greatest help to Bai Zi. And this sudden truth brought by Bai Zi made her obsession and efforts for more than 10 years like a joke, so that Lushamine really didn't know how to describe herself. Mood at the time. Fortunately. It's not entirely useless. Fortunately. Goodbye at last. At this moment, Lusamine was smiling like a flower. In a dark and boundless space, the sky is a thick dark blue, and the whole space is filled with a deadly silence. In this gloom, pumice stones of different sizes are densely covered, like an island chain on the sea. The various colored crystals inlaid on it exude a faint light, reflecting on the coral reef-shaped stones, creating a realm-like being in the deep sea. Instantly. A twisted hole extending out of colorful optical fibers emerged from a floating island the size of a football field. Immediately afterwards, a lavender sphere drilled out of it and landed on the floating island below. Slap. The chanting ball shattered, and the figures of Bai Zi and Shanae Duo suddenly appeared. Bai Zi looked around and glanced at the ultimate hole behind him that seemed to be fixed. According to the method of Lusamine, he unscrewed several high-wave locators in the shape of suction cups and threw them in the nearby on a pumice stone. Then, He took out a poke ball from his waist and tossed it gently. In white light, the solid body of the giant golden monster appeared in front of Baizi. Golden monster, let's get started. Terry tilde. The giant gold monster obviously knew the reason why Baizi called it out, and immediately stood on all fours. A moment. _. A gorgeous painted pattern appeared on the top of the giant golden monster, did it? Next second, it turned into a colorful streamer and galloped away in a certain direction. Baizi and Shinado looked at each other. No more words needed. Close your eyes, as if entering the obvious. Shinado immediately stretched out his hand, and used his psychic power to wrap Baizi and the giant golden monster, chasing in the direction of the spot of light. At the same time up. The ultimate metropolis. The sleeping being encapsulated in the huge translucent black crystal suddenly opened, like a painted prism eye. Yuga-e. Like a whistle, an indescribable roar suddenly resounded. That voice contained deep pain, and an indescribable joy. 535. First meeting, Necrozma. The geomorphological environment of the ultimate space is very complex and harsh. Even if there is a painting to lead the way, Baizi still cannot avoid some obstacles unique to the ultimate space. For example, stab. Over the ultimate power plant like a thunderous waterfall, a galloping electric light like a sword, from the dark cloud sky, slashed towards Baizi and his party in the psychic shield. Skill, 100,000 volt. No need for Baizi to say more. Terry tilde. The giant golden monster swayed its metal body slightly and broke free from the hood. Under the shrouded white light, the golden iron arms and claws moved forward, smashing the electric light into pieces with an extremely tough posture. Comet punch. In the overflowing electric light, a tall elf with a slender and strange body, about 4 meters high, similar to a humanoid cable aggregate, swayed in the direction of Baizi with heavy steps. Electric beam wood. The ultimate pure electric beast, numbered UB03, Thunderbolt, has the ability to directly absorb electrical energy and convert it into its own energy. And the strength of the electric beam wood that stopped Baizi in front of him is obviously not weak, and it has infinitely approached the Heavenly King level. And, as this beam wood moved, one beam after another rose up from the power plant that radiated electricity, surrounding them in a circle like a circle. Although the ultimate monsters also belong to the legendary elves, in the ultimate space 420 ultimate monsters are quite common and even a huge number. Not only are they huge, most of the extreme beasts are quite ferocious in temperament and have strong offensiveness, which is why Baizi and his party were attacked by the beam wood as soon as they entered the ultimate power plant. In addition to living in the ultimate space where the environment has become extremely bad after the loss of light, except for the Four-Needle Dragon clan with extremely integrated nature, the rest of the ultimate alien beast clan in the group, there are almost no weak ones. For example, the dozen or so beam woods living in the corner of this ultimate power plant on the way are almost all quasi-celestial kings. This level of strength can almost horizontally compare 3 or 5 second-tier alliance special teams. However, for Baizi, it is still too weak. Golden monster. Earthquake. Terry tilde. In an instant, the giant golden monster sank down, and under the impetus of the magnetic force, the double fists mixed with the brown-yellow ground-based energy factor hit the ground directly. In an instant. Invisible fluctuations spread from the giant golden monster's fists, and spread precisely to the feet of every CFED electric beam wood. In an instant, the impact exploded. I saw that the electric beam woods seemed to be installed with springs under their feet, and they were knocked into the air one after another, and then fell one after another. With just one blow, this group of electric beam woods were all defeated. And next. The beep of the system also rang out one by one. You command the giant gold monster to kill the electric beam wood X15, a little gain, battle experience +5, giant gold monster experience value +15, comet fist proficiency +1, earthquake proficiency +5. Let's go. Glancing at the electric beam wood lying on the ground, Baizi greeted him directly and set off again. To be honest, the strength of these beam woods is not weak, and their qualifications are acceptable, but their appearance really does not meet Baizi's aesthetics. Now that he has enough elves on hand, he will not randomly fill the team unless it is those cherished phantom beasts or top legends. Although the ultimate alien beast also belongs to the legendary elves, the ultimate alien beast is almost a chaos in the ultimate space. Second come. The ultimate alien beasts are generally very violent and difficult to train, and if they are subdued, it will take a lot of time to grind away their wildness. If it is a handsome type like Ji Yujian, he still considers it electric beam wood. Forget it. Hurry all the way. Period. According to the direction led by painting, after passing through the ultimate power plant, Baizi and his party walked through the middle area between the ultimate jungle and the ultimate building, and crossed the living area. The ultimate canyon where the iron fire glows the night. Finally, after several hours of rushing, I successfully arrived at the final destination, the ultimate metropolis. It's here. Above the desolate wasteland on the edge of the city, Baizi, who had stagnated a little, looked up, and there, the outline of a huge city had come into view. In the dark city, you can still vaguely see the lights of the stars, and on this surface, the city's power supply system is still operating. After taking 2 glances, Baizi, Shinado, and the giant golden monster continued to move forward, and soon they officially entered the ultimate metropolis, this huge and empty technological city. The ultimate metropolis is undoubtedly developed. In the dim lights, the streets, the ground, and the houses all reveal a quite sci-fi feeling, giving people the feeling of stepping into a desolate and sci-fi future city. Sleep. And in the very center of this sci-fi city, there is a tower that rises straight into the sky. Below is a circular column. And the top of the tower opened like an umbrella stand, almost completely covering the huge arena in the center of the city. This is the iconic building in the Ultra Metropolis, the Ultra Metropolis Tower. It is also the place where God is imprisoned. Here, Necrozma. Arriving in front of the iconic building of this ultimate metropolis, Baizi looked up slightly, wrapped in his burning white thoughts, and immediately flew towards the open door below the giant tower. Shinado and the giant gold monster who took back the painting quickly followed. Gay. It seemed to sense the arrival of Baizi and the others. At the top of the tower, a whistle-like whistle was faintly passed down, with an incomparable joy, but a tyrannical urgency that could not be concealed. Baizi. Be careful. Lai Kongzai and Kang Zheng's unique telepathy followed. Don't worry, it shouldn't be hostile to us, and even if it's really bad luck, it happens to catch up with the other party's runaway. Climbing all the way, Baizi, who reached the top floor, looked at the huge black crystal standing in the middle of the ring instrument in the open floor, and the corner of his mouth was slightly raised. I don't think you should be afraid of a non-perfect alien legend, right? Neither Lai Kongzai nor Kang Xiangbu replied. And this moment. Inside the black translucent crystal, the pitch-black elf that was forced to curl up into a ball opened its long and narrow eyes like a painting. First time, Necrozma. 536. Get angry, or fight. First meeting, Necrozma. Facing the pair of tyrannical, painted, pupils filled with destruction, Baizi meditated in his heart, and the unseen brilliance also appeared in his eyes. And the next second. Race, Necrozma, general form, dusk mane, dawn wings, ultimate form. Attribute, super energy. Characteristic, prism armor, exclusive brain core power, exclusive to ultimate form. Attack with excellent effect, the power will be increased by 25%. Level 1 God limit, level 119, 99 100ths, quasi-creation level, lack of origin. Potential, quasi-creation level. HP, 97, attack, 107 157ths, 113 167ths, defense, 101 127ths, 109 97ths, special attack, 127 113, 157 167, Special Defense, 89 109, 127 97, Speed, 79 77, 77-129. Exclusive skills: Photon Surge, Prism Laser, Meteor Flash, Dusk Mane, Shadow Light, Dawn Wing. Skills: Moonlight, Morning Light, Charging Beam, Gravity, Metal Claw, Mind Power, Invisible Rock, Split, Shadow Key, Spiritual Blade, Auxiliary Power, Rock Crit, Iron Wall, Force Measure Gems, Lighten the Body. Close Black Lens Bracket. Status: Extremely Fatigued. Power: Glory, Creation Grade. Introduction: The great God of brilliance, who brings brilliance and life to the ultimate world, feeds on light, and is born with the rudiment of brilliant power. In its heyday, almost 1 foot has stepped into it. In the field of creation, at this moment, I am in a state of being deprived of all light and falling into extreme pain and rage. The rudiment of natural power, Baizi said with a tisk-tisk on his face. Sometimes, being born is really a unique advantage. But he turned his attention to the potential column of Necrozma. Quasi-creation level. Even if Necrozma has the personality of creation god, can't the potential reach the creation level? Baizi's eyes lightened slightly. Originally, he thought that Necrozma, who possesses the personality of the ultimate world, creation god, should have potential even if his level did not reach the creation level. But now it seems that the creation level may really be a hurdle, and it is not so easy to break through. Even the glorious god who was born with the prototype of the creation level power, Necrozma. But this way, the threat of the Dark Mewtwo in different time and space will be re-estimated. Because Baizi remembers very clearly, although there is the blessing of the unknown prop, Darkness Resonance Stone, the Dark Mewtwo is indeed a real creation. Level potential. Fortunately, judging from the attribute panel, the distance between the former, bright god, Necrozma in his heyday was obviously closer to the realm of creation than the dark super dream that he had seen before. Reached the quasi-creation level. This brand new strength division stage. I will sacrifice. Deep overlapping sounds of tyranny and pain echoed in the tower. Until this time. Only then did Baizi realize that Necrozma, who originally thought he was looking at him, actually didn't pay attention to himself at all. Instead, Baizi turned his head slightly, and dropped his peripheral vision on the giant golden monster that was following behind him. At this moment, a colorful, painted, mark appeared on the forehead of the giant golden monster again, which complemented Necrozma's eyes. Terry Tilda. The giant golden monster turned his body to Baizi, as if asking for Baizi's opinion. And the action of the giant gold monster seemed to finally make Necrozma think of the humans standing in front of it. Painted eyes fell on Baizi's body. Human, kind. Some intermittent low telepathy reverberated in the room at the top of the tower, and a thick, almost substantial malice and tyrannical emotion rose along with the fall of the words. Quote exclamation mark. A burst of warning signs came from the bottom of Baizi's heart, which was the malicious feedback given by Baizi's power, indicating Necrozma's attitude towards him. That is almost undisguised malice and anger. Sana. Terry. 2 invisible breaths appeared faintly, and Shinado and the giant golden monster flashed in front of Baizi almost at the same time, and layers of psychic power and energy shields separated Necrozma and Baizi. Come. Ask for flowers. Are you outraged? Baizi's eyes flickered, but after a second thought, he figured out why Necrozma had such a strong malice towards him. Like he said, this is anger. Once. In the ultimate world, there are not only the ultimate alien beasts, but also human beings. This can be seen from the Ultra Power Plant, the Ultra Building and even the Ultra Metropolis. There are obvious traces of human civilization in the Ultra world. The ultimate Necrozma, at that time gave the ultimate city light and sheltered human life. Superk's time and space, by God Amadina. Point 0. The ultimate Necrozma, who selflessly helped, trusted, and sheltered mankind, was also facing betrayal in the end. Humans in the megalopolis coveted the power of their patron saint, Ultra Necrozma. Driven by their greed and ambition, they didn't know what means they used. Finally took away the power and light of Ultra Necrozma. Light was the source of power for Ultra Necrozma, and Necrozma, who had lost her light, fell into deep pain, and it went berserk. And in the same way, when the Ultra Necrozma lost its light, it was also the Ultra Metropolis, and even the entire Ultra world lost its light and darkness. Begin to wither. Necrozma was also sealed on the top of the Grand Metropolis Tower in the frenzy, enduring unbearable tyranny and pain until now. So, Baizi can fully understand the anger and hatred Necrozma has towards himself as a human being. It seems that after the seal is lifted, I have to spend a little effort to resolve the misunderstanding between each other. With a sigh, Baizi pulled Shinado back slightly. Immediately, without hesitation, he issued an attack order to the giant gold monster whose energy shield had been removed. Golden monster, photon surge. ... Begging. 537. This is the joy of besieging. As Baizi's voice fell, a turbulent stream of photons suddenly condensed from the top of the giant golden monster's head, and then it shot out. Boom, underscore. In the blink of an eye, the giant gold monster's photon spew ripped apart the air and bombarded the surface of the black crystal. The violent blasting sound continued, and the strong wind pressure spread wantonly. The wind is blowing. Shinado, who was beside him, immediately waved his hand, and the wind wall hit the hood, causing layers of ripples in the air. And with the movement of the giant gold monster, Necrozma in the black crystal also started to act, and the painted eyes instantly lit up. A white light spot condensed in front of itself. Instantly, it turned into a dazzling torrent of light and bombarded the same position attacked by the giant gold monster from the inside. Sip, underscore. In an instant, a roar like a big drum resounded through the top of the tower, the air was shocked, and the layers of ripples spread in a ring like a substance, but it did not shake the crystal at all. But, as the giant gold, 420, monster and Necrozma chose not to cast photon surge, an inexplicable resonance suddenly rose between the two, and gradually, the black crystal also became it trembled at an extreme speed as if being affected. In no time. Kacha tilde. A crisp sound sounded, like the sound of glass breaking. Immediately after. Click. One after another cracks gradually covered the entire black crystal surface, and became more and more dense. Finally, as the light of the two skills was temporarily extinguished, Nike curled up in the black crystal. Plasma suddenly stretched out. Immediately. The huge black crystal exploded instantly. Gay. Necrozma, who finally got out of trouble, raised her head and let out a dull roar. The majestic energy level fluctuations instantly overturned and shattered the top floor of the Metropolis Tower. The coercion came out through the body. Just the aftermath of the sweep made Baizi feel a tightness in his chest, and he felt a little breathless. Sana tilde. Shanae Duo immediately made a decision, wrapped the lavender hood, and burst away from the top of the tower, which had already become a flat ground. It's not that she doesn't want to use faster teleportation, it's really Chennai the energy level surging around Plasma is too thick, and she may not be able to safely break through the space barrier. During this period, Baizi also took the giant golden monster back to the Pokeball for the first time. And just when Baizi and Shinado had just left the top of the tower and flew out a distance of 100 meters, Necrozma also chased after them. Gay tilde. The whistle-like hissing sound resounded through the night sky again, and a purple spiral beam of light spewed out in the blink of an eye, and the target hit the direction of Baizi. Click tilde. Click tilde. In successive crisp sounds. Woo tilde. A light blue blade of light flew out, directly facing the incoming wave of evil. With a whoosh sound, the beam of light was split in half. Skill, Spirit Blade. Immediately after, in the bang that followed, a slender black dragon shadow wrapped in bright white light slashed through the void. Fast blow. Right on Necrozma's chest and abdomen. It slammed it to the ground, rolled, and crushed a large piece of metal building. It was like plowing a shallow ravine in the middle of the city. Moment. The smoke dissipated. Necrozma, who climbed up from the ruins at the end of the gully, and lifted off again, looked at the black sky with a winding dragon body in the opposite midair. And farther away, standing on the top of the high-rise building, blocking the sound of King Sheng in front of Baizi and Shinado. Necrozma's painted eyes flickered rapidly. Although the pain and inner tyrannical emotions have influenced his rationality, facing these two elves, it still makes him instinctive. I felt a long-lost sense of threat. Status: extremely impotent, running wild. Sure enough, are you still in the midst of a rampage? No one could see the flow of light in the bottom of his eyes. Baizi sighed as he stared at the two Necrozma, who were still in the midst of legend, with narrowed eyes. Perhaps I can try to use Baizi's power to soothe the mind and the ability to purify the abnormal state to soothe the pain of the other party. Baizi's eyes flickered and he thought to himself. However, if you want to use the power of a top legend in a violent state, you have to completely subdue it for the sake of safety. Let's fight fast. His heart skipped a beat, and Baizi immediately shook his left hand. In an instant. A faint shadow of a sword weapon emerged from behind Baizi, and a blue sword-shaped ray of light also appeared from the back of his left arm. Bright King Sword. Ow! A long sound like a long whistle to the moon sounded, and in the next second, the sword-shaped imprint flew from the back of Baizi's hand, and King Shang shook his head and held it in his long kiss. Immediately, the dazzling light appeared and quickly dissipated. And the appearance of King Shang suddenly changed greatly. The fur patterns on the body have become rich, diverse and very gorgeous. The golden mask armor covers the head and face, and two pairs of metal, flying wings, with different sizes are spread out on the waist and back, like a flag. Bureau exhibition. In the mouth, there is a golden holy sword of Michelle, with blue and blue prisms embellished on it, which looks extraordinarily luxurious. King Shang, the form of the King of Swords. At the same time. Woo! Accompanied by the long roar of the dragon, the green light lit up from the whole body of Lai Kongxi. In the splendid light, two kumquat ribbons stretched and fluttered, embellished with lines, and the teeth and blades were parallel. With a slap, the superlative was completed. The evolved Ryakuza also revealed his figure from the burst of light. Gay. Necrozma seemed to be getting more and more uneasy, and the rising sense of crisis made it even more manic. This mania stimulated its nerves and made it take the initiative to launch a strong attack again. A little bit of colored light rose up, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into countless rays of light rushing out, turning into an overwhelming laser rain curtain, covering the small half and the largest. In an instant, hit the head down. It is another exclusive trick of Necrozma, Prism Laser. Ow! There is no need for Baizi to say more. King Shang jumped up immediately, and the blue light blades suddenly flew out, and in the process of flying, it divided into countless tiny lightsabers, accurately facing the lacing. Prism Laser, under. Rumbling one by one. The successive explosions ripped apart the cloud and the sky, and the impact and the sky above the Energy Fire City were connected into one piece. And in this successive flashing explosion of light, the finishing touch. Roar. Super Li Kong's straight dragon body is like an arrow from the string, piercing the air, and attacking the direction of Necrozma 4.3 at high speed. At the critical moment, Necrozma had time to subconsciously tilt his head, after barely avoiding the fatal point at the painted. In the end it was inevitable. The brain nucleus in the crystal armor was hit by the Super Li Kong sitting in the finishing touch state. Gay! Exclamation mark quote. In the uncontrollable screams of pain, Necrozma's body twirled and fell straight down into the metropolis city with many high-rise buildings below. An instant. Rumble 1. The successive explosions resounded through the night sky again. Tisk. At the same time, Bai Zi, who was watching this scene from a distance, raised his eyebrows slightly, and there was an indescribable sense of transparency in his heart. Maybe this is the joy of beating. 538. Critical point, purification, and the radiant blessing of bursting effect. To be honest, if it wasn't for knowing the urgency of the matter, King Shang would be better off saying that it would be difficult for the arrogant He Shanli to take part in such a surrounding. After all, in terms of strength, whether it is the super-evolutionary black shining empty sitting, or the King Lu in the form of the King of Swords, even one-on-one defeats Necrozma, who is now in a state of incapacity and irrationality. Grasp. And now. It's 2-1. Do not. Including Bai Zi's command bonus, the gap between the strengths of the two sides is even bigger. Lala. Pushing aside the earth and stone steel bars that buried him, Necrozma flew up from the ground again, leaving a clear white mark on the brain nucleus above the painted eyes. Besides, it seems that the finishing touch that Lai Kong sat just now did not cause it too serious damage. Really excellent defense, Bai Zi couldn't help but praise. In the middle of the air, seeing this scene, the black flash in the sky sat with a slightly cold expression. Subsequently, seeing the light flashing all over his body, a pair of giant claws attached to the energy of the color of golden iron, towards Necrozma, who was rapidly approaching in the direction of Lai Kongsi. Bai Zi also narrowed his eyes. Loud. Wu tilde. Accompanied by a low groan of 25, the bright king sword in his mouth suddenly trembled, and bursts of clanging sounds came out. Hum underscore. The sound waves surged and spread in an instant, passing Necrozma's body. Immediately, a loud explosion rang out from Necrozma's body, blocking the opponent's attack. Loud. And the next moment. Fly. God fast. The finishing touch. Roar. Followed by Bai Zi's successive orders, black shining Lai Kong sat on the dragon's body and twisted, and the moment it flew high, it suddenly flicked its tail out, enveloped by Ying Ying's green energy. Like a beam of light the arrow pierced through the void in an instant. Bring up layers of sonic boom rings and charge up. The finishing touch. Rumbling one by one. Gay. In the midst of the bang, Necrozma let out a whimper and was thrown out again heavily. But the black flash cracking empty seat is willing to give up. The previous blow failed. This time, the crimson dragon's eyes shone with tyrannical rays of light, and the golden-orange ring pattern was rendered on it. Between the flying ribbons, the power of law filled the dragon's body, and the finishing touch continued in half. Using it in the air, it swiped across Necrozma's body again and again. The blink of an eye, the black flashing cracked empty seat used the finishing touch to draw countless crisscrossing green grids in midair, destroying the defenseless Necro. Zima is surrounded by a group. The sound of breaking the air mixed with the interlaced sound of sword grinding continued incessantly. Finally, stab. As the sparks splashed around, like a straight spear, the toothed blade in front of black shining Li Kong pierced deeply into Necrozma's waist and belly, nailing it to the ground. The surrounding earth shattered, collapsed or rose, and the circular impact swept away, completely overturning half of the city. Go. Bai Zi stepped a little, and in the next second, he was sent to the center of the battlefield under Shinedo's teleportation. Next second. Hang. King Shang arrived silently, the wolf head swung, and the super energy factors quickly gathered together, turning into two rows of sharp teeth, one bite on Necrozma's face. The teeth of the spirit. The turbulent mental power poured in instantly, causing Necrozma, who was already badly injured, to let out a painful murmur again. Painted, part of the brain nucleus that represents the face is half flickering and half dark like a broken line. You command Lai Kongzai to work together to defeat Necrozma, and gain a little, battle experience plus 150, Lai Kongzai experience value plus 10, level reaches the critical point, experience transformation, source enhancement. Attack race value plus 1, divine speed proficiency plus 3, finishing skill proficiency plus 1-2. You command King Shang to defeat Necrozma with a little gain, Kangshang Experience +1 level reaches the critical point. Experience Transformation, Source Enhancement, Special Attack Race Value +5, Giant Beast / Proficiency +3, Spirit Fang Proficiency +5. With the sound of the system's beeps one after another, the breaths of Lai Kongzai and Kangshang suddenly rose for a moment, and then they were quickly restrained. But now is obviously not the time to pay attention to these. His superpower orb, and the World Tree Seed, from Shinedo's hands, focused slightly, and nodded to Shinedo. Let's start. Sana tilde. The purple exclusive psychic power radiated a lot, transformed into invisible spiritual power and poured into Baizi's body. Skill, Spiritual Blessing. Hem tilde. Baizi only felt his brain swell for a while, couldn't help groaning, and closed his eyes. Immediately afterwards, the mental power in his mind became extremely active, and his whole body seemed to have received an inexplicable blessing, allowing him to clearly experience that his own mental power, continuing to gain strength. Finally, Baizi suddenly opened his eyes. Between the raised palms, exclaimed the substantive translucent white brilliance glowed, just like the rising sun, moisturizing things silently penetrated into Necrozma's body. Time passed slowly. With the continuous release of Baizi's power to soothe the mind and purify the strange power, gradually, Baizi's complexion returned from ruddy to normal color, and then to bluish white. The fine sweat gradually seeped out and covered Baizi's forehead, and the transparent white brilliance became thinner visible to the naked eye. Finally, when Baizi's mental power was drained and nothing was left. Drop. Painted, part of Necrozma's 420 that had been completely dimmed suddenly lit up again, sending out a rapid flash. Call. Putting down his arms, he felt dizzy, and Baizi, who was unable to stand still, panted and leaned into Shinedo's Shang 21 soft arms. But at this moment, an inexplicable warmth suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. Immediately after, you have obtained the only creation-level blessing of the brilliant god, Necrozma, in this life, the glorious blessing. Ding! You have acquired the natural personality oppression of the ultimate alien beast, and the ultimate alien beast will not be able to exert its full strength when facing you. Ding! You have obtained a small part of the power of authority in the ultimate world, and have the authority to open the ultimate hole at will. Ding! You gain the ability to sense the ultimate aura. Ding! You gain the ability to use and absorb the ultimate aura. You will be able to absorb the ultimate aura and become stronger. Ding! You have gained a unique affinity for light. You will be able to absorb light, to replenish and heal yourself. A series of system beeps made Baizi feel a little dizzy. Good half sound. After slowing down a little, he spit out 2 words from his mouth. Quote. Lying. Trough. 539. The power of domination. One step closer to the humanoid beast, Baizi's power is taking shape. It was not the first time that Baizi had been blessed by legends. When he fought against the Devil of the Sea, in the Battle of Rampur, he had been blessed by the sea god Lugia, and he had acquired the adaptation and resistance to the water attribute factor, and he was already tolerant of water. The innate affinity of elves. He also enjoys the favor of the ocean and the blessings of the ocean. He breathes underwater and walks on the ground. He can be called the son of the ocean. Nothing to do with the system title reward obtained in the previous battle of the Golden City, the Guardian of the Divine Bird, that is, the current title, Guardian of the Divine Bird, too. All of them enhance the attributes of a certain department to a certain extent, as well as the affinity of the elves of this department. The difference is just a matter of degree. But this time, this creation-level radiant blessing of Necrozma is completely different from the previous one. It can be said that it is too rich. The racial personality oppression of the ultimate alien beast. The authority to open the ultimate hole. The ability to sense the ultimate aura. The ability to use and absorb the ultimate aura. Affinity for light, being able to absorb light, and thereby replenish and heal itself. Combining these several blessing abilities, in addition to the lack of characteristics and skills, Baizi can be said to be a little Necrozma in human form. Is this the exclusive blessing of the creation level? Love tilde. Oh. Correct. What needs to be said here is that not all legends have the ability to bless, just like some elves can create gods, while some existences are not weak at all. Can't create the same. The same legends have different characteristics. Just like Kang Shang, although like Haishan Lai Kongzai, he couldn't give blessings for the time being, but he also brought Baizi the brilliant King Sword, which can be called Killer Bronze, right? Not to mention, perhaps in the future, when Lai Kong sits and they are promoted to the field of creation, they may also be able to perform this level of blessing for me. Tilde. Such thoughts flashed in Baizi's mind. As for the hope of Arceus, anime TV, he had a good relationship with the master of the elf world, and the idea of prostituting a wave of creation-level blessings, Baizi put this idea aside in a second thought. In fact, Baizi was more resistant to meeting Arceus. Because no matter what he knew before he crossed over, just a few words about the new setting of Arceus, or what he gradually knew about the creation level. In the face of Arceus, he is probably very likely to be powerless to fight back. From Baizi's point of view, facing such an existence head-on is undoubtedly equivalent to putting one's life in the hands of others. Thoughts fly. But it seems that the harvest is not over yet. It didn't take long for the benediction sound about Necrozma to fall. The sound of the system sounded again. You use the power of Baizi to neutralize part of Necrozma's frantic mind, wake him up from the rampage, and get extra rewards one by one. Empirical power. Domination. In an instant. Baizi seems to have entered an inexplicable spiritual horizon, and a complex imprint is condensed in the void, which looks like pure white and colorful, in a way that he can see clearly, but the speed mark, which seemed to be completely unresponsive, fell down and fell into his body. At this moment, an inexplicable enlightenment rose from the bottom of his heart. This feeling is. At this moment, Baizi's eyes seemed to be in a daze, and he subconsciously reached out and grabbed in the direction of Necrozma. In an instant, infinite mighty power seemed to be suddenly generated within the body, and the power of the God that controlled light, carried heat, and controlled the ultimate even made him feel that the whole world was under his control. But he hasn't waited for Baizi to enjoy enough of this realization of all-knowing and omnipotent. Next moment, an unparalleled sense of emptiness and unbearable manic pain also emerged from the bottom of my heart. Humph. Instinctively disconnected, Baizi's already slightly pale complexion suddenly flushed, and blue veins burst out on his forehead. The unimaginable pain point made him break free from Shanae subconsciously. Duo's arms, he knelt down on the ground full of mess with a puff. Baizi, X3. Delicate, cold, and awe-inspiring voices exclaimed at the same time. Shanado grabbed Baizi for the first time, her palms flashed green light, and she displayed healing wave. A cold light flashed in the black eyes of Likong Sitting's scarlet pupils. The dragon's body was meandering, and he used a tie to Necrozma, and the blue sound nailed the spirit in Necrozma's brain core. The teeth, the energy level has skyrocketed. Stop. With the help of Shanado, Baizi, who was dripping with cold sweat, reluctantly got up, and hurriedly stopped him. Just now. It wasn't about Necrozma just now, it was me, I was a little impulsive. Let it go, Necrozma, it won't hurt me anymore, Baizi said firmly. Feeling the firmness and determination in Baizi's eyes, Haishan Lai Kongzai and Kang Shang were worried, but they each canceled the skill suppression of Necrozma. One left and one right stopped in front of Baizi, his whole body was tense, and he did not dare to be careless. Baizi did not continue to speak. Although he is now extremely sure that Necrozma will no longer hurt him in the slightest, there is no need to reject Haishanli and Kang Zhang's protective heart for him. Baizi looked at Necrozma. Now, without the suppression of the two legends, the colored painting at Necrozma's brain nucleus flashed again, and for a moment, Necrozma, who gradually regained her calm, slowly floated up from the ground. Ignoring Haishan Likongsi and Kang Shang who were on the verge of an enemy, he aimed his eyes at Baizi who couldn't see his expression. Did it? Thank you, human, kind. A slightly jerky low telepathy echoed in the center of the ruined city, and the tone was unwavering, like a machine. But Baizi easily felt the kindness conveyed by the other party. Although his ability to appease the power of Baizi even after the spiritual blessing of Shinado, it can only be regarded as a drop in the bucket for the top legendary Necrozma. But fortunately, the other party finally regained his sense of reason. You're welcome. Baizi shook his head with a chuckle, and in the vigilant eyes of Shinado, he stretched out his right hand towards Necrozma. Necrozma, congratulations on finding your freedom and sanity. The first time we met, my name is Baizi, do you mind, come with me. 540. Take Necrozma, the secret under the Metropolis Tower. As soon as these words came out, let alone Shinado, even Haishan Likong and Kang Shang couldn't help but take a breath. Although they already knew the purpose of this trip, they never thought of it, Baizi. Such an abrupt invitation. You know, they were still fighting to death just now, and they were invited in the blink of an eye. Moreover, although the guy with the strange breath in front of him looked like he was being pressed and beaten by them, no matter whether he was sitting in the air with loud noise or pride, he had to admit that it was a one-on-one situation. It's going to be quite difficult to take down this guy. Not to mention, the state of the other party was obviously wrong before, and it was irrational to say nothing, and the breath showed a clear sense of regret and incompleteness. But even so, with the help of Kang Shang in the posture of the King of Swords, he resisted the super black flash and sat in the air for dozens of finishing before being completely defeated. Such a strong posture, there is no doubt that it is not inferior to their top legends. Such guys are all proud. Without real approval. Even if you defeat the opponent, or even get some kind of favor, you will not be able to gain the following of these top legends. Of course, 420. One by one, a bitch like this rushing to her door is definitely an accident. Long worms like this that are unreasonable for grabbing people are pure exceptions. Haishan Likongsi and Kang Shang felt a chill almost at the same time. After subconsciously looking at each other, they both looked away calmly. Likong clenched his claws tightly, and Kang Shang gritted his teeth slightly. Baizi obviously didn't notice the undercurrent between his two legends. He looked at Necrozma calmly, his eyes full of certainty. Come on, Necrozma, I feel the pain. I will help you take back the light that belongs to you. Necrozma looked at Baizi silently for a long time, and finally, it raised its arm and gently placed the tip of its claw on Baizi's palm. Hopefully, I won't make the wrong choice again. Again. Baizi's eyes flashed, and he immediately chuckled and held Necrozma's cold claws, and responded firmly, of course. Welcome to join, then, Necrozma. After retracting his palm and taking an ultimate ball from his waist, Baizi lightly placed it on Necrozma's giant claw. In an instant, Necrozma's huge body turned into a red light and completely disappeared into the ultimate sphere. There was no shaking, indicating that Necrozma did not resist in the slightest. But the next moment, click, underscore. A crack suddenly appeared on the ultimate ball. Baizi twitched the corner of his mouth, and immediately threw the ultimate ball in his hand. With a sip, the elf ball exploded instantly, and Necrozma reappeared in the air. Painted pictures and texts flashed. Although he didn't speak, Baizi clearly felt doubts from Necrozma's expression. This is the ultimate ball specially used to accommodate the ultimate alien beast, but obviously, it can't carry your power. Baizi shrugged and said helplessly. Right, maybe. After thinking about it, Baizi glanced at Necrozma hesitantly, and finally decided to give it a try before saying, come with me first. Saying that, he squeezed Shinado's palm lightly. Where to go? He pointed to the top of the Metropolis Tower. Sana tilde. Shinado nodded, a lavender light flashed, and in the next second, he teleported with Baizi to the top of the Metropolis Tower, where there was only one platform left. On the other side, Black Flash, King Shang, and Necrozma also followed. However, regardless of whether Black Likang or King Shang, both intentionally or unintentionally caught Necrozma, and Necrozma, who found this, didn't care. Soon, the three rushed to the top of the tower. And Baizi CFED took out an instrument shaped like a flashlight, and pointed the light head at the black crystal fragments on the ground to absorb them. Then, as soon as the button was pressed, a pure black Pokeball with no texture was spit out from the rear of the machine. The imprisonment ball, the elves that cannot be broken from the inside, energy level limit, the highest cannot exceed the limit of a first-level god. Tisk tilde. Looking at the imprisonment ball in his hand, Baizi was slightly dissatisfied. This can undoubtedly carry Necrozma at this time, but he is not willing to use such a Pokeball to carry Necrozma. Let the other party recall the days of imprisonment again. Looks like I have to find another way. Maybe I can ask Dr. Damu if he can help me get a Master Ball. While thinking, Baizi put away the imprisonment ball. An aura that made him appetite greatly increased. This is. Necrozma's determined telepathy came, and her voice was clearly excited. It signaled Baizi to leave from the top of the tower. A layer of bright white metal color was immediately rendered on the giant claws, aiming at the remaining floor at the top of the tower. Poof! It penetrated the ground, and lifted it up. La la! The reinforced slate was easily torn off like plasticine and thrown away, and Baizi couldn't help squinting at the sight of it. Only see. Inside the Metropolis Tower, whose top floor was completely opened, a huge crystalline stone pillar exuding bright brilliance stood in it. The light that radiated out made Baizi couldn't help taking a deep breath. Next second, the light on the crystal seemed to be extracted, turned into a ray of light like a real light, and sank into Baizi's mouth and nose. An indescribable fascination filled his brain. Baizi could feel that his physique and even his mental power were instantly filled and stronger. And the system beep also proves this point one by one. You absorbed and digested Necrozma's original radiance, and gained a little. The power of radiance blessing has been fully enhanced. All attributes +1 +1 +1 +1 +1 +1. Quite a while. Baizi got out of this feeling. After opening his own attribute panel, he glanced at it and found that just one bite of the brilliance, that did not change the crystal at all, increased all his attributes by a full 10 points. If all were absorbed. At this moment, Baizi's mind couldn't help but have such an idea.